Good day, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to the Season 4 Campfire Chat. We are 16 minutes in for it to start. We have our list of things ready. Our list where we're gonna write in everything like itemization changes. We got the public test realm. There will also be probably crafting system. Season 4 theme, and lastly, what else do we have here? I think these are the big points that we're kind of working with currently, in my eyes. Optimization changes. Former tier room. So that's kind of like the main points that we're going to be working down, that I'm interested in to see what's happening. I'm not sure if there is any other major points we have to look for. I mean, they set in the massive itemization changes, the public test realm. I mean, the season 4 theme. Item stats, Codex of Power. Here. Season, that is Codex of Powers. Let's do actually here. This Codex of Powers / aspects. We're not COD anymore because there's many more interesting things, Brandon. But thanks for being interested in my COD content. I am rather not. I'd rather, you know, create some interesting Diablo-esque content. You know, talk about the cool new changes. See what there is coming, what there is to offer. Got 14 more minutes going on. My itemization changes is get rid of all useless affixes. That's one big point, I'd say, that we should be excited for, right? It's actually the main point, to be honest. What do you have to release and we still have no progress? Auntie, we do actually have progress. It's okay if you are not on vogue with what Diablo has to offer, but we do have significant progress for the game, and the game has been improving. Oh, for some Summon Necromancer overhaul. I mean, yeah, class balance. Class balance overhaul. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't think we're actually going to get something in that direction, sadly. So, Summoner Necro buffs recently got more oomph. So that was interesting, right? It definitely recently got more oomph, but it's far from enough. That being said, though, Summoner Necro is the best level Necro now. That's for sure. I mean, all aspects moving to the Codex of Powers, and Codex of Powers update if you disenchant an aspect, you know. So if you destroy one, and then the Codex of Power gets updated. It's kind of like what I would like to see, kinda, right? A poll on how many categories remain empty. I mean, like, every info is good info, Bugag. I mean, they're not going to spill all their beans. The thing is, they got to spill a lot of beans because of the public test realm, right? The public test realm will be there. There will be a lot of information. So do we start with level 100? How much of the new content can we experience? Right? If it's like a 100% kind of thing, we'll see. How are you today? I'm not well, but the Campfire Chat is important. What can I say? I gotta be there, you know? Deposit up. Yeah, I mean, the aspect depositing we have, all aspects moving to the Codex of Power. So that is kind of like that. Deposit in the Codex. So reasonable, right? I mean, season 4 theme is a big many question marks. I really don't know what to expect from a theme, you know? Is it going to be gems again? Is it going to be... Yeah, I really don't know what it could be. right? Crafting system, please let us craft and augment uniques. That means 20 uniques equals to one other unique, and infusing existing uniques to make it perfect. This is what I like to see from a crafting system. Okay, that essentially you can break down 20 normal uniques for one other unique, not, or 10, 20, like whatever you feel like for a number, right? But that we could also take uniques and infuse them into others to boost the stats to make like the perfect uniques. That's the plan, right? But I'm actually not sure, like, loot filter? Loot filter won't come, most likely. You know? Tell Diablo Barbarian should be nerfed, probably. Season 4 theme. Oh, did I put in endgame? No, I actually didn't put in endgame, right? Oop. With endgame. Endgame, nightmare dungeons up to tier 130. The reason for tier 130 is that the current nightmare dungeon is tier 70. So current tier 100 is old tier 70. That means we got 30 dungeon tiers left over. Okay, chat. So we could technically make nightmare dungeon up to 130. Sounds a bit weird, but we could do that, right? Yeah, it makes normal uniques so you can make better ones. See, that's what I have up here, infusing uniques. And let me actually move this out. Infusing uniques. That's what I call infusing uniques, I guess. Dave, Daff, you see there. Probably reduce uber unique crafting to 3. Right? Reduce uber unique crafting to 3. This is all expectations, kind of. Right? Way to craft uber uniques by breaking down uniques. I have had one uber unique for beta till now, play 3-4 hours a day. I might reduce the uber unique crafting to 3 and be able to break down 50 normal uniques for one uber unique. I think 50 is reasonable, right? I mean, 50 normal uniques is 50 Duriel tries, technically, to make one uber unique. That means that you can safe call make one uber unique. I think that would be reasonable, right? 100? No, I think 100 would be too much, right? 100 is better. Okay, no, let's say 100. Like, I'm going with your recommendation. We can do 100. 100. 50 to 100. Right? Season 4 theme. We got public test realm. How much can we new to content? Itemization changes, loot filter. Codex of Power. Yeah, we had that one. I mean, that one is amazing. Metamorphosis needs to be made into necro exclusive movement speed skill. I mean, the vampiric aspect stay. By the way, have vaults stay or riot. Right? And for the end game, anything. Anything. Anything right now. Right? I don't actually know what kind of end game I want. I just want something. Right? 100 for a random Uber. It wouldn't be a random Uber. The 100 uniques would be a fixed Uber. Problem is that you get rid of RNG. No, definitely, you still have to farm 50 to 100 uniques. And I don't think that getting rid of a portion of the RNG is a bad thing. Right? I mean, now we're going to get some Season 3.
Season of the Contract has so much going.
We really don't want to listen to this again, right? I don't know why they're playing this one more time. I feel like they could have, like, really let that go. Awesome. Future of Diablo played every game they released, have the novels and books and everything, but since last Epoch came out, I didn't touch Diablo 4. And that's fine. Pause. I mean, like, you own the game already. Shout out to everyone that owns the game. At some point, there will be a patch you'll like. Right?
Underground vaults.
At some point, there will be a patch that gets you. New class is not coming, no.
Elements and build tools to serve
So season 4, I mean, new class.
You rescue Ayush.
But I don't think that is reasonable.
Demon Malphus has taken over the loom to create its own private hell.
Malphus is a servant of Diablo. He's unlike other demons we've encountered in Diablo 4.
I still like the Malphus fight.
He manipulates others, takes on forms other than his own.
He has possessed one of Zoltankul's prized constructs.
And
Perhaps maybe, yeah, I really don't know what the season 4 theme is going to be at all. Like, I have no idea.
This season
Nothing.
introduces constructs. These elementally powered monsters were originally created by Ayajan and Zoltan to protect and maintain the loom. Unfortunately, Malphus...
See if Diablo updated their stream image.
They're powered by various different elements.
They updated it, chat. Woo!
Abilities and strengths and weaknesses.
Season of the Cube. Season of the Cube would be great. Kanae's Cube.
Themselves, protecting the many treasures within. As players
See here. Season of the Cube. Crafting Cube.
during the quest line.
It'd be fire.
Seneschal is a special
Absolutely. Especially if the cube stays forever then.
based on Ayajan's and Zoltan's
And then
Ayajan
cube stays forever.
prepares the Seneschal to follow your orders.
I mean, we need a season that is permanent, right? Chad?
The Seneschal
Nightmare 100 is Nightmare 70. Yes, Nightmare 100 is currently Nightmare 70. They did that in season 1 because people were too bad.
construct's power.
I'm sorry, Chad.
The Seneschal construct has many different abilities.
So the reason why current tier 100 is tier 70 is because people were too bad. And they needed to change that. But that means that we have another 30 Nightmare Dungeon tiers left over. Right? So that's kind of cool. By the way, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, like the chat, have a good time, and bring in your input. I mean, more feedback is better. I will always send feedback to Blizzard, right? Yeah, we need permanent things. That's why I'm saying vaults need to stay. Chad, this is important. Vaults needs to stay. There's no argument.
And also abilities that are just focused on buffing the power of
I mean, think about it.
so that players have different options as they're progressing through the season.
By the way, we can make them a bit louder. We're just not doing it yet. This is all inconsequential, right? Random media, yada yada.
Another cool ability that your construct has.
What we also need is save your builds, class balance overhaul, crafting system itemization changes, save your builds. Save your builds. At least skills. Paragon points.
Vaults are seasonal dungeons that are filled with a high concentration
Right.
of deadly traps, where you can farm for the magic stones for your Seneschal.
Juzo, thank you for the membership on
You
YouTube.
can find the
Big
enemies in
appreciation.
zones of sanctuary. When the player enters a vault,
And Vincent, thank you for joining the Knights of the Round Table as well. Appreciation.
the player
I want Diablo to be good again. People, please give it one more chance. Oh, I'm definitely giving it one more chance. I mean, this week I'm done with the Gauntlet because this week's Gauntlet is just horrible, right? Like last week's Gauntlet was great. First week's Gauntlet was okay. This week's Gauntlet, at least for Necromancer, horrible. And I'm really not interested in spending time there. But that's just normal when it comes down to that, right? Faster power leveling. I think leveling is fast enough.
enemies and a powerful elite. If you survive that, the traps will
I don't see how we could level even faster.
If you get hit by a trap, you lose one
Right? Companions are coming at some point. So you're saying companions,
can get by interacting with
companions, mercenaries,
when they enter a vault.
mercenaries,
Pearl of Warding.
plan for expansion.
Chests are special chests players
By the way, this document is available, chat, too, for everyone. You can actually look it up.
If a player has more than one stack, they can open a rare ward woven chest.
Where's the share button again? Here. So we're sharing the link also in the YouTube,
This is going to be a
in the YouTube video description, and Twitch has it under exclamation mark season 3.
has managed to corrupt and control.
And now it's 2 more minutes and we're ready.
To include some of the season's new traps into the arena.
They would take the Nightmare Dungeons back before the changes here. Give us 130 Nightmare Dungeon. I mean, why don't you give us Uber Nightmare Dungeons, right? Why don't you give us Nightmare Dungeons beyond tier 100 that are just like AOZ for the people that want the challenge?
Make sure they remain upgraded.
And make them drop like a unique, I don't know, guaranteed or something.
Gauntlet is a new fixed seed non-linear dungeon where players have a fixed amount of time to achieve high scores by proving their might. Any player who unlocks
I thought putting a pet in that picks up all crap for you.
in the Gauntlet.
We can write it on the list.
Starts several weeks
Season 4 theme, pet for stuff pickup.
Gauntlet replaces the current one.
I don't
Unlike other dungeons, every time
think that's a thing though.
players enter the Gauntlet that week, it will be exactly the same. Same monster positions, same affixes, everything.
Would be cool.
This makes it a fair competition. Additionally, monsters within the
You have loot filters for drops, right? I have loot filters, but I doubt it will come because if the itemization changes are coming, then you don't technically need. If loot filter, then super simple. If loot filter, then ultra simple.
These reset each week
Okay.
when the gauntlet appears. There are solo leaderboards for each class, as well as
Because everything else wouldn't work. Because Diablo players are mostly playing on their couch. And if you make it too hard and too hard to set up on the couch, that's going to be annoying for people, right?
Each leaderboard has a ladder that you climb to reach it. Each rung of the ladder awards a seal that you can
Yeah,
show
Gate
off.
Hall needs to stay.
You earn the seal of
Gate Hall needs to stay. Imagine they're taking Gate Hall away, Chan.
you in Sanctuary.
They need to make Diablo harder? Nah, it's a casual game for casuals. Sorry, that's just what it is.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo 4 Campfire Chat.
They don't look completely trashed this time.
Today. I say that all the time. But I will say that this time we really do. Yeah,
Let the people
we will
decide.
let the community decide. I promise you, this is a lot.
I'm gonna make it louder.
But my name is Adam
Don't trust
Fletcher.
one stream.
My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community lead for the Diablo franchise. Of course, I'm joined by a wonderful panel here, plus one other.
They look like they're done with life last
and will be
one, not
jumping
this
in.
one.
We have Charles Dunn, who's a game designer on Diablo 4, Mr. Joe Shelley, who is the game director of Diablo 4, and Mr. Joe Paipora, who's the associate game director of Diablo 4.
Hello.
And we will be joined by Adam Jackson, who's the lead class designer of Diablo 4.
Promise they have
before
some weird inconsistency in their loudness.
The class-specific information that we're going to share today. But I know Joe wanted to jump in, talk a little bit.
Still
about,
volume up, or we're good?
Some of the things we're going to be talking about today, and then we will go through a plethora of changes coming to Diablo 4, and of course, details about the first ever PTR, Public Test Realm, for D4. And for people who don't know, Public Test Realm is
Dueler
kind
at the
of
Tree of
like
Whispers
a
will be great.
private server where players can actually end up playing early content and test that out and provide feedback to us. So we'll go through all the details on that as well. But Mr. Joe Shelley, want to kick it off?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so I want to frame this update. This is a Season 4 update. We're going to talk a lot about systems here, and I wanted to do a little bit of framing. When we think about Diablo, right? Diablo is an ARPG. Everybody knows what an ARPG is, right? It's an action role-playing game. But it's such a broad category, right? You have lots of games that are ARPGs. Like a game like Hollow Knight, for example, is an ARPG, but it's also a Metroidvania, right? Or a game like Hades, which is an ARPG. It's also a roguelike. Or something like Elden Ring.
I hope he has a good point. I hope he has a good
but
point.
it's also Souls-like, right? So when you think about what is Diablo and what is Diablo 4,
Not an RPG.
you could call it a Diablo-like, sure. But another way to describe it would be as a systems ARPG, right? An SARPG. And so what distinguishes this kind of game from those other games that are in the same space, that are all ARPGs, right? And it's really about when you're making decisions and what the most important decisions you're making are. The most important decisions in a game like this are the decisions you're making before combat, between combat. Decisions you make in combat are important too, but those are the ones that are the most important.
I'm not sure what he's trying to say.
Action combat, RPG elements, and systems are all foundational elements of any ARPG. But in a systems ARPG, the systems in particular, including the endgame, itemization, things like crafting, those are what comprise the soul of the game.
Yeah, that's true. Give me more
And they're the
crafting.
lifeblood of a game like Diablo 4, and they don't just have to be deep, but also lush, prolific, exciting. So as many of you know, we've been designing this update for a while. We're putting it on the PTR because it's important, and it's important to get it right, like Adam was saying. And everything that you'll hear about today
They needed to start with
is
a
from
wow,
that
but
S part of that
he's cooking. Let him
the
cook.
soul of it. Joe, Adam, and Charles are going to take you through the changes, all the changes in detail. And there are a lot. So sit back, grab a drink, get your React faces ready, and let's do it.
That was definitely
Awesome.
not the
Well,
start.
Appreciate it, Joe.
But it was okay.
So I know what we want to do first. We kind of have an agenda of items, but one thing we do want to talk about really quickly is about PTR. We do want to get some housekeeping notes and what players can expect from PTR.
Tell us when it's
along with the
releasing right now.
dates for PTR, so when they can actually jump in.
Boom.
So Season 4 PTR is actually going to start on April 2nd, and it's actually going to run for a week through April 9th. So players will be able to jump into PTR and try everything out that we're about to tell you all about here in this stream. Now, I know a lot of people are probably asking, like, hey, that seems pretty close to the end of Season 3. Is that enough time for you guys to actually react to the feedback that we're going to be getting from PTR? And I will note here that we do plan on actually extending Season 3 for this. So Season 3 is actually going to have a new end date. We're pushing it back a few weeks to ensure that we get all the feedback from this PTR and we apply it to Season 4 to make sure that all these new system changes that we're doing are right and work for the community based off of everyone's feedback. So Season 3 is now going to end on May 14th. And of course, with that, Season 4 also starts on May 14th. So there are some a few different changes coming on for the schedule. So you'll see that in-game message, which actually notes like when the season is actually ending, change today probably with this new date for players, so that
that's horrible.
Again, we can make sure that we apply all the feedback from PTR, which starts on April 2nd through April 9th. One other note is that again, PTR itself is specifically for PC BattleNet only. So this just allows us to be a little bit more agile on our team.
Okay, this is,
PTR is only
I mean, 1 week PTR, delaying the season.
No, it doesn't. We are going to try to explore other ways of being able to bring PTR when we do have a PTR to players in the future. But for now, this one is PC BattleNet only. So, and we'll have instructions of how to actually
I mean, they're making their problems our problems by delaying it.
Test realm client on,
but because they can't get their shit together.
BattleNet client. Next week when we actually have a full blog that will explain kind of all the details of how to do that well before the start of PTR.
I mean, good guys, we can play more Dragon's Dogma 2.
But then there's other notes with PTR as well.
And no rest for the wicked.
There's probably going to be a lot of questions of like, well,
no rest for the wicked releases on the 18th. Fuck yeah.
Characters, since PTR itself is a fresh new server.
Come on, this is good.
Will actually
this is good. Blessing in disguise
on PTR, but we do have boosting options available because we need players to actually jump in and test out some of these features that we're obviously in these system changes that we're doing specifically for PTR. So
as a creator, I'm not mad. As a player, I'm mad.
Speaking of which, I know I'm actually bringing the camera back to me, Lucas. Sorry. I've seen a lot of feedback about, hey, you guys have a lot of slides. Sometimes the slides have a lot of information specifically.
I'm skipping my camera for everyone, so you don't get confused where I am.
Because there might be a lot of details in there. I will say we will have slides today because there's a lot to share. But we also have a live build. So we will actually be going to the live build to showcase some of the changes. Just because we know that a lot of players want to see more gameplay.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked is going to be fire. So blessing in disguise, chat.
Okay. Now we can go to the next one.
Okay, instantly boost your character to 100.
So there will be PTR boosting features available for players that are jumping into PTR. You will be able to boost a character immediately up to 100. When you do that, you will receive 100 million gold and 1,000 obols. You can do this multiple times. You can even trade amongst gold across your characters, of course. And then we will also mark the campaign completed for your character, as well as offering you a mount, all your skill points, and more. Skill points again. Paragon, Fog of War will be completely cleared. Altar of Lilith points will also be cleared. It's actually going to match the renown progress on your original Diablo 4 account. So if you've already done all your renown rewards and everything, you'll end up getting that completely
that's good.
Covered off on your character for PTR. And of course, all the class system mechanics, things like enchantment for sorcerer, or like book.
Legendary drop rate double, cool.
Be, enabled for you for this character that you end up creating for PTR or any other characters that you create. And then all your Paragon glyphs will be unlocked, and legendary drop rates will be doubled.
This is fine.
And I believe glyphs are also...
Yeah, glyphs are maxed.
Yeah,
also.
glyphs are also maxed up.
Perfect.
So you will have that capability there.
It's important.
There are like a few things that will be not present in PTR, but that is like, for example, one of the things is Codex of Power, but we'll explain why here in a minute. There's some more details related to Codex of Power for players to kind of understand why that's not present there.
This is what creators said. We will like some, but not everything.
For the PTR across all our different social channels, across all our different community channels, and we will be turning on a specific PTR forum on Diablo4.com. That is not on right now, so no one can actually see it. But once that does come online, we will also be checking feedback there. So please provide feedback based off of everything that you are hearing today and playing through during PTR between those dates that we actually mentioned, because the team is going to be looking at it.
I mean, that
and
one
making
week
sure
we'll
that
play
we,
Diablo a
make any
lot,
changes
Chad. That's
before,
for sure.
The start of Season 4. So with that, now that we've gotten through the PTR like housekeeping notes, Mr. Joe Pipe.
Let's dive in, okay?
Let's dive in.
There is quite a bit to cover today, so we're going to try to move briskly through parts where we can. So there's 3 major things we're going to be discussing today.
Okay.
The first, Charles will be bringing us through a number of itemization and crafting changes you're going to see when Season 4 goes live. I want to also be very clear that the changes we're talking about today are all going to be on the Eternal Realm and on the Seasonal Realm.
Good.
We're not actually talking about the season specifically.
2nd April, is
today.
that
We're
right?
really
Yep.
talking about this massive item update and these other updates been happening kind of in parallel to season development during this time. So that's going to be the first part. The next, I'll be guiding us through some of the new endgame content that we're going to be implementing and integrating into the Season 4 release. And then Adam Jackson is going to be coming on to talk about a lot of the live class updates making across the
class updates,
various
cool.
mechanics in the game. So there's a lot to look forward to. Let's go ahead and just, I guess, dive right in. Charles, if you don't mind taking us away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start talking about itemization. So
He sounds excited.
When we think about the itemization updates, I think it's really helpful to frame this conversation around some of the goals that we have for the itemization update. So our number 1 main goal here is to focus on quality of items over quantity of items. So one of the persistent points of feedback that we've gotten since we've launched Diablo 4 last year was that a lot of the items that you find in dungeons and throughout the game,
better
you
items.
end up just sifting through a lot of items, searching through your inventory, and reading a lot of lines of text, and ultimately a lot of the items just end up being junk for you.
Yep.
And that was never really, it never really felt great. And so with this update, that's been our number 1 goal, is to focus on making sure that when we do give you items, they're high quality items, they're much more likely to be useful for your build, rather than just flooding you with endless streams of often junk items.
Okay.
The second goal we
they're
have
gonna do
here
that?
is that the best items in the game, the really pinnacle ones that you get at the end game, they have a journey associated with them. As I said before, you were kind of sifting through your inventory and looking for these items, but once you found that perfect item, you were pretty much done. It was basically a complete item, and you're already done with the item. You've completed it. We think that the game is a lot more engaging when you have a bit of a journey, an investment, whether it be time,
I agree with
crafting
this
materials, and you really get to customize and make items your own, and make it feel like this is for me and my build and my character.
Yeah, and feel that power progression too. It's so critical to the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third goal that we have here is to focus on moments of surprise and delight in the itemization chase. This leads to moments of, hey, I found the item. You get really excited about it. And you're just, you have these infrequent moments. It's not going to be all the time, but when you do find it, you're going to know it.
These moments are missing right now.
You're really excited
for sure.
about what just dropped.
100%.
So with that, we have a number of topics within the itemization update. Okay. So the overview here is that we've got updates to existing systems, such as base items updates. We've got a few additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the itemization system. We've got some updates to Codex of Power, which we sort of alluded to earlier, and I think those are going to be some really big wins. We also have some new systems being introduced here. We've got tempering, which is going to be a new customization system.
There you go, tempering, chat.
Greater affixes, which help to provide some chase in the end game. These are going to be some of those powerful items, ones that have greater affixes. And then once you do reach that end game with great gear, you're going to be able to masterwork it to really unlock its full potential and upgrade it to the best possible version that it can be.
Okay.
So let's hop into some of the base item updates. So this is where we're going to focus
Sounds
on
good.
making a smaller pool of affixes that are more relevant and more potent for your specific build. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the goals section, a lot of the affixes and stats that appeared on items,
See, no more sacred in World Tier 4, easy.
conditional, right? You had like damage while berserking or damage to close enemies or things that were hyper specific and ultimately just were kind of meaningless in a lot of ways. They blended together. We're really focused in this rework, we're focusing on reducing that pool of affixes to be
This is crazy change.
more general. They're more applicable to a lot of builds. They're not going to be this hyper specific conditional, and they're going to be more potent. So some examples here, we've got ranks of a single core skill. Sometimes on gear you would find items that have ranks of upheaval, ranks of whirlwind, and ranks of double swing, all on the same item. And almost no build wants all three of those things at once. So we've made it so that, hey, only one of these can appear. That makes just the subset of items that you find much more likely to be relevant for you. And in terms of like being more potent, we're looking at things like in World Tier 3, only sacred items are going to appear.
This is so important.
And then once you get into World
Sacred
Tier 4,
and ancestral
only
items.
ancestral, only those most powerful.
I don't want to
versions of
find
items will
sacred items
appear.
anymore.
This
right?
means you're just getting less junk, right? Sometimes you'd get sacred items in World Tier 4, and that never felt great because, hey, I'm in World Tier 4, I should be getting the best items now.
Big, well done change.
We also did a pass on the affix values to make sure they're a bit punchier, that you could feel it when you really equip an item. This often was just some numerical tuning. In the past, you might get an item that said plus 2% critical strike chance, and honestly, it was hard to ever notice that, or like plus 5% damage or something like that. And those really small values.
How about something with gems? Yes, we need meaningful gems. The gems currently are sad, like resistance,
upgrade your gear.
armor.
So let's take a look at some examples here. Right. So the other update is that we are reducing the total number of affixes on gear that initially drops. So legendary items used to drop with 4 affixes, 4 lines of stats. That's going down to 3. And then rare items, the yellow items, used to have up to 4, and now they'll just go down to 2. And so the goal here, once again, is to really focus on the quality of the affixes that appear on the gear rather than just the pure quantity. And this also gives us room to
now let's see what the crafting update is about.
Crafting and tempering systems. You are going to get more affixes, but the base item is going to start with a little bit less, just so we have room to grow.
Okay.
One of the changes that we're making in response to this also, like we know that right now, like rare items are the items
so they
that
give
players
us
use
3,
to
and then we
trade,
can
which
add a
is where you
4th,
find,
maybe
like,
a 5th
really
even.
Powerful template item.
Right?
So you get a max roll helmet with CDR and such, right? Like these are still really important for players. So as part of this change, we are going to open up trading to allow legendary items and unique items to also be tradable starting in Season 4. It's a big change for us. Now, one distinction here to keep people on keep this in mind is that crafting on either of these items, whether you're going to be tempering or masterworking or anything else later on down the road, these things like enchanting
I can get the community stuff for free.
Account bound, so you can't trade them once you get them after you've done some crafting on them. So we think this does a great job of making sure that the trade economy is still interesting, and that when you're looking for a specific item or an item is dropped for you that a friend can use, it's going to be a lot easier for you to go ahead and hand those things around now.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's.
By the way, I'm gonna know.
Adam Jackson. Adam Jackson snuck
All
in
right,
here.
trading is a big deal.
And now you never get 2, or you can still re-roll the affix for a second one, JF.
He appeared for trading.
The trading fairy.
Trade Ubers?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very important note, and I know a lot of people might have saw this and thought, oh, rare items are now, how can I trade? But now you can still be trading these legendary items that you find if they're useful.
Vulnerable damage is up to 40%. I think it
or
caps
you
at
think they might be useful for a
23%.
friend.
Oh, and also,
4.
I should say also, uber unique items are not going to be tradable in Season 4.
Everything that isn't an Uber.
Yeah, everything that is not an uber unique.
And Uber unique, those are the most powerful items.
I think the Uber Unique trading would be real money.
That's right.
So
Those are the
that's
most
good.
powerful items in the game.
Honestly, that's good. Chat. No.
right, so
This
let's
is good.
take a
People
look
would sell them
at,
for real money.
At a closer example
Think about
here.
it.
So we've got, kind of on the left, a before. This is a boned wand of Serration. This was before our update. This is what you could currently get on live.
So
and you can
I
see
think
how it's got
well done.
plus intelligence, vulnerable damage, damage to shadow damage over time affected enemies. That is a mouthful. Same with the lucky hit, chance to execute injured non-elites. These are the really hyper-specific affixes that we're talking about that really bloat items. It takes a while to parse this. Like, you just can't at a glance tell, hey, is this even good for me?
Yeah, reading through a number of conditional additive damage modifiers is like when you're like item to item, it's just very, it is taxing.
Yeah, the new one looks better.
Especially when you
Intelligence,
really
damage,
fill up your
vulnerable damage
inventory
done.
with,
right?
30 plus of these items,
Yeah.
trying to sort through them all at once when you just really want to get back into the action, right? You want to get back into fighting demons. So after this itemization update, in the after section here, we have got a similar item. It has intelligence. It has plus damage. That just applies to all of your damage. It's not, hyper specific. And we still do get give you a larger bonus if
Chat, don't worry.
hitting
We're
vulnerable
writing all the
enemies with it.
changes into the
And if you
Did you
document.
get an item now that gives you like int, dex, and
Okay.
strength on it?
No, in fact, because this wand just has intelligence on it, it is just the main stat for your class. So if you are a sorcerer, you're only going to find intelligence on items. If you're a bard, you're only going to find strength, and so on.
Okay.
I can still find all stat, right?
Yes.
all stats
Yeah,
still
you still
Okay,
have all
that's-
stat,
that's
but
good.
no more you're going
good.
to find, oh, I got, intellect on my barbarian. That's just basically a completely dead stat for you.
Got it.
Strength.
All right, so let's
Dex?
talk about some of the other
can still
additional
roll
updates
strength or
that
dex,
are
right?
kind of adjacent to
You can
the,
still
the main
roll it, chat.
itemization updates. Legendary item drops from monsters that are level 95 or higher are always going to be at item power 925.
Yeah.
That is the highest item power in the game. And once you're really facing the toughest monsters in the game, we want to make sure that you're constantly getting the best possible items. This really comes back to our idea of quality over quantity. Once you're at this point of the game, you don't really
just wanna look at items,
care
right?
about anything that isn't 925. So why are we dropping that for you, right? You're going to be kind of graduating out of caring about item power because you just know that everything I'm getting is the maximum item power. Next, we've done a pass to update our gems. They are a little bit simpler.
Okay, gems
Some of
are
the gems
simpler?
used to have, once again, those very conditional things like critical strike damage to vulnerable
Better
enemies
and
was
have
like one
much
stat on
longer
one gem.
crafting
So we kind
trail,
of simplified
whatever that
it, so we now
means.
just have bonus
we
critical
said
strike damage
gems need
or
to be
bonus vulnerable
better.
damage. We've also added some updates to have core stats on them. So some of the gems will have strength, some will have dex, and so on. And they'll have a little bit of a longer crafting tail. They're a bit more powerful at the top
Double
end, but they
crafting
do
and rewards
require a
all
bit
over
more
2,
investment to
significantly
really
reduced item
unlock
drop
that
rates.
highest power level.
Less time sorting,
And
more time
once you
slaying.
have all the gems that you want,
Can you roll
excess
and gold
gems will now
cost
sell
count?
for quite a
Yeah.
bit more gold. So that way you're not really going to
Threatens
waste
rare-
once
rare
you,
drop globally
have
from
kind of
elites.
found those best gems.
There you go.
Additionally, we've done a pass on the salvage, crafting, and rewards have all been retuned for this new world where we're dropping less items than before. Once again, we're focusing on you have less time sorting through your inventory and more time getting back in the action, more time slaying enemies to find those items.
Yeah, there's much less cruft in this version of the feature, right?
This is
You're
pretty
not
good.
walking out of a nightmare dungeon with 25 items. You have to go and deal with it back at the
Right.
blacksmith.
But the ones that you do have are much more likely to be relevant and useful to you when you do find them. Additionally, we've item rerolling, the enchanting system at the occultist. We know this has been
Gold cap
it has
is
like a
very
scaling
important.
gold cost currently, and that just keeps on ramping up. If you want to keep fishing for that perfect affix, it could cost millions upon millions upon millions.
200
of gold.
million, and I didn't get.
We put a cap on that. We don't think it's really healthy to have that actually scale infinitely. It'll still get a little high, but it's not going to go to infinity. We've taken a pass on the materials, the crafting materials, things like ore and herbs, and some of the other crafting materials in the game. And a lot of the ones we had some variety of like common herbs, so that were found in different zones, and there was some nice flavor there, but ultimately they didn't really provide much compelling gameplay.
Yep.
So we've consolidated all of like the common crafting materials into just a single type, just basically common herbs. And then there are still some rare ones to find to craft the most powerful elixirs and so on. But we've simplified that system so your collection
not a billion herbs
is
anymore.
a little bit easier and more streamlined.
Yeah, we also removed things like there's like a lot of monster parts like pale tongue and things like that are also have been removed as part of this experience. It's gonna make it a lot
Megan,
easier
let's
to
go
craft
to do less
elixirs
drops.
in this new world.
Absolutely.
You know,
And-
I might not make gold over whispers anyways, Jody. I don't sell drops. I disenchant drops.
Especially when they ultimately just
So
fed
I've
towards
never
that same
made
goal.
gold over item sales.
And then the final update we've got is updates to the Forgotten Souls, right? So the late game crafting material that you use for a lot of the enchanting or other crafting systems, we're making them a little bit more accessible.
Thank you.
Come from Whispers of the Dead caches, and they can also rarely drop globally from any elite.
That's
in the
great.
game. And this is a really cool moment that you kind of have this jackpot moment. It's pretty rare when you kill elites, but there's a moment where you just get like this explosion of loot, and it spits out a ton of the Forgotten Souls or other loot or other crafting materials, and that's a really exciting moment when you encounter it in game. It's pretty rare, but you kind of hit the jackpot when that does happen.
That's a well done change.
That can happen outside of Helltide, right?
Oh yeah, that can happen.
Many uniques can now drop in World Tier 1 and 2. Oh, what? All uniques can drop in World Tier 3?
At updating our uniques.
Oh,
so
what?
Unique items are, these really build
that's crazy.
flashy, unique items, right? They are very powerful.
With the new
Currently,
Uber
they're
unique
locked
drop
behind
chances,
just World
everyone
Tier
will have
3
Uber
and onward.
uniques.
They're really late game items. And we thought that to really get you into the fun faster, to get your build online,
This is nice.
we've made it so that many of our uniques in the game can now start dropping in World Tiers 1 and 2. So you can start getting them earlier on in the experience and really get your build going much quicker. And then once you do get into World Tier 3, then all of the uniques in the game have the potential to start dropping.
I mean, you're probably going to get at least one or two now as
Uber
you're leveling
uniques, which are typically
to
those
100.
very late game chase items.
Right?
There is a chance that monsters starting at level 55 drop these Uber uniques. It's a pretty
With the
small
new
chance.
Uber unique
It's very
drop
rare,
chances, right?
But it's one of those moments that you're going to find, if you're really lucky.
That
you
means
might
as soon as you
find,
enter World Tier
Harlequin's
3,
Crest.
Yeah, you
at
remember
can
that.
get Uber
55.
uniques.
You'll remember that playthrough for sure.
Oh, you definitely will, right?
As soon
And
as
of
you're
course
World
they'll
Tier
drop. Oh,
no,
Kind
3,
of going
you
back
can
to
get
our
Uber
goals
uniques.
of the itemization update in general is that, like at any time something really exciting can happen.
That's crazy.
Right? That's the main impetus for doing this is that even early on in the game, you can get the main thing that you're looking for. It's going to be very rare, not very common, but it's possible. And even some of our other updates coming that you're going to explain is kind of going along that vein, right?
I mean, at least you're going to get it earlier, probably, and you can use it until you are 100, so do not get it on 100.
Have that high roll moment, a really exciting moment when you find that awesome loot.
So now transmute?
That covers the
Masterworking.
additional updates. We've got to talk about the Codex of Power.
Okay.
Right, so the Codex of Power is a system that has been in the game since launch. We're making a big update here where now all legendary aspects in the game will start appearing in the Codex of Power.
Okay.
Every single one. Previously, it was just a small subset. And I believe we even have some in-game footage that we can talk and
That's just
go through an
insane.
example of what this looks like.
Yeah, we'll jump over to
Yeah.
it.
That's insane. That's very good. That's very, very good.
Former content creator. Now,
that's a new crafting station, Chad.
The Blizzard team here on Diablo. He's actually driving us through our build here, but
So this is an item with 3 affixes now? 3 only?
demos that we have today. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can see in our inventory right now, we've got Edgemaster's Siege Bow. And this has a little icon on it in the upper right in your inventory there. And that indicates that if you salvage this legendary, it will upgrade an aspect in the Codex of Power when you salvage it.
That's
The
right.
upgrading
so
is
you no
coming,
longer need to go
Chad.
to the occultist to extract aspects in
Correct.
any way, because aspect crystals are no longer a thing in this new version of the Codex of Power.
Yeah, aspect crystals are gone. It's just when you salvage the legendary, it will upgrade it. So we salvage it, we can see that Edgemaster's
Insane.
aspect has been upgraded in the Codex of Power.
That's
So we
insane.
go to our Codex of Power and let's go take a look. So we've got Edgemaster's aspect here.
And look at the search
that
function.
Skills deal
Pretty
up
good.
to 6% increased damage.
Keyword
based on
search
your
even.
available
Guys, they did
resources when
everything I
cast.
asked for. Everything.
So that
search
is
bar, where it
kind
drops,
of
my
legendary
class
rank
only.
of the one that we just
That's
salvaged.
crazy.
Now this says
That's
6%
actually
here.
crazy. Well done.
In game, it was 12% because it was on a two-handed bow, and that doubles the range.
That's
but you can see it's
actually,
not a minimum
like,
roll.
crazy.
Right now on live Diablo 4, it's always just a minimum roll, and so once you find something better, a better aspect crystal, the Codex is kind of irrelevant. Now the Codex will continue being relevant because every time you find a higher roll of it, it's going to upgrade your Codex, and you can continually re-imprint this legendary power onto any gear that you find going forward.
That's right. So if Ruben finds a 10% roll, on something else, then that is now he can go ahead and salvage that item down. That 10% version is now going to replace the 6% version he has right now.
Still from
And that's
season
the
to
new
season,
version
which
we
is
have. So when
fine.
we're talking about upgrading, what we really mean is as you find the
For
better
the
versions
journey.
of these aspects, they replace the older ones. Now, every time you decide you want to imprint the Codex of Power, that's going to be the version that you get from that point forward.
So if you find a max roll the first time, are you just super lucky? You have it forever?
You are super lucky, and you would have that forever. Yes, you can continue to re-imprint it.
Ever for the
However, the ranks of legendaries, you won't be able to find a max roll of these legendaries in World Tiers 1 and 2 when you're just starting out your journey.
Sinister,
We
thank you for your
have
support.
extended
Sinister,
the
welcome back,
range, so
brother.
a lot of legendaries used to say, hypothetically, if a legendary rolled between 20% and 30%, now we've extended that range from 20 to 35%. But those like 30 to 35%, the highest range, the most powerful versions, those are only going to be accessible in World Tier 4 in the later games. So this does give you a bit more of progression. So you can find it early and you can upgrade it, but then you're going to find even better versions as you progress
That's good.
through
I
World
think
Tiers.
that's fine. Absolutely reasonable.
If we
Baxton,
actually-
thank you for
can
the
we go
subscription
back
as
to the
well.
book really
Baxton, very
quickly,
appreciated.
just,
Happy to have you with us.
Ruben, if you can pull
Bring up
up
that
the Codex of
again.
Power really quickly.
Show the UI a little
just to
bit
show the
here.
UI.
Yeah.
Right now,
Because
the keyword search
one
is
big thing
insane.
like there-
I can
know you
finally look for
glazed over
Blood
this really
Surge,
quickly, but there
Bone
are,
Spear,
filters,
crit,
ways of searching through everything,
movement.
which is really nice. And then, of course, on the icons as well, I think people are probably seeing these numbers associated. I know.
Yeah.
Xmaster is now down to
it's,
5% as the base.
something that
Chat, it used to be
is
10%
changed,
base, it's now
obviously,
5,
with
that's
this new
fine.
Codex of Power, where
So they
it's
lowered the
showcasing,
base
like,
strength,
hey,
and
there's
that's
a
super
gold
okay.
version of aspect of quickening fog right there, which is already showcasing, hey, you have it completely maxed at 16 out of 16. And of course, there's different ranks as you're kind of like leveling up throughout the
Except
Codex
Ubers,
Power
where you will
finding
get a
different
level
aspects.
55
Yeah.
and still be using it. I mean, if
really
you get
love
it.
that gold border to really indicate that, hey, you found the best version, you've kind of completed this. And some of them, you kind of cheat on it, right? Things that only have one rank. As soon as you unlock it, you get the best version.
Yeah, that's an example of one that you could max out in World Tier 1.
Control is now up to
But most of them
35%. Control
have
used to be
now,
20%.
up to 16 ranks is kind of our standard, for the most part. And those highest ranks are just going to be in the later world tiers.
This
And for a lot of
is
these aspects
fire.
too, when we went to 16 ranks on these,
just
we actually
brilliant.
extended the value, the power of these. in
I'm
power
I'm genuinely
aspects
surprised they
up.
pulled this off.
Right, we didn't
Yes.
water it down. We actually extended it up.
For
the most part, these have
do really not
increased in
expect it.
power at the highest level, just to make them really rewarding in World Tier 4 when you find them.
And I'm sure there's people asking specifically about, hey, is this a seasonal thing? Is this an eternal thing?
This is everywhere
Yes.
forever. This is the new world.
This is the new
This is
world.
that's right. All the updates we're talking about today,
Correct.
once again, are for the Eternal Realm and for the Seasonal Realm. These are
About
not
Skeletal Priest, I saw something.
seasonal
Katie didn't
updates
pay
only.
attention, but
They're
we'll
coming
have
with
to go
Season
back in the
4,
VOD to
but
go
they
over it.
are applying to the whole game.
Yeah.
Forevermore.
And I do want to note, like, Codex of Power.
Trying to make it fun again. They are succeeding so far. Apart from the delay of the season,
It
that's
does reset.
terrible.
Yeah,
You
in the
will
same
have
way
to-
that it does today.
But eternal characters,
We haven't even touched on
Yeah,
transmuting
fill it
yet,
out.
chat.
Eternal, yeah.
Yes.
eternal.
And masterworking.
All right, so that was a ton on the systems that already exist in the game, right? The base item affixes, the other updates, and Codex of Power. But there's also new systems coming.
We're not done with
That was
itemization.
updates to
Halfway
existing
done.
things, but
Yeah,
we have
let's
got a lot of new stuff. So let's talk about tempering. Tempering is a new crafting system that will allow you to add really cool new affixes to your items. And so I really just want to highlight that this is not just taking those old really conditional nitty-gritty aspects or affixes. This also includes a lot of really new exciting affixes as well that we'll showcase a bit later.
Surprise me.
Things
Did
like
you actually make good
chance to
affixes?
cast bonus projectiles, increased effect size of your skills, and other
That's
ways of talking
interesting.
directly to individual skills. A lot of this lives in tempering. And so this way you can really customize your character, specifically to your build and the
Space
skills
landing
that
on the
you're using
16th,
and the
no
way you wanna
14th of
play.
May. It's a bit of a
So you might
bummer.
be asking, well, how do we temper? We've got tempering manuals. So these are items, manuals that are going to drop from most content in the game. This isn't something you need to
Drop
go target
everywhere?
farm. You're just going to find these as you're playing. And these manuals are going to be a list of possible affixes that are kind of themed to individual builds. So if you are a bone necro, for instance, the manual for bone necro
Oh,
might
they
have
temp-
things
they- last
specifically to
epoch,
bone
Chad.
spear and bone splinters and
Last
bone
epoch.
spirit. When
Tempering
you do the
durability.
tempering, which is done at the blacksmith.
And
you
I'm
will
not mad.
attach
I love it.
A random one of the affixes from that manual onto the item that you're tempering. And if you don't get the exact one that you want, or you don't get the roll that you want, you can re-roll these affixes up to the item's tempering durability.
Yep.
Now this is a lot without an example, so I think we've got an example where we can just
let's show
walk
people what it
through,
looks
right?
like.
Right, so here's some screenshot examples of the actual recipes that appear. So on the left,
Oh,
we've
what?
got,
Chance to craft
the manual
twice?
of natural motion. This is a generic recipe that really applies to any class. It's got a variety of movement speed options on it. So you've got, you might just attach movement speed to your gear. Maybe you get a higher value of movement speed, but only after you kill an elite. we have the option to reduce your evade cooldown or give you mobility skill cooldown reduction. We've tagged a lot of skills in the game with mobility tag when things like teleport or charge. And then on the right, we've got one that is more specific to necromancers.
Is it a one-time
because
use?
this is
That's
the
my
bone
question.
necro one that I mentioned before. So we've got a chance for bone splinter projectiles to cast twice, chance for bone spear projectiles to cast twice, increase the size of your bone spirit explosion,
That's very cool.
or increase the duration of your bone storm. So if you're a bone necro, one of these is probably going to be
through
pretty
these for
relevant to
hours.
you,
No, I think
and
they're going to be
really,
sitting in a crafting menu.
a cool
Hopefully
way
they
of
show the
customizing your
crafting
character
menu.
and your skills.
Use this item to unlock a new recipe. I think they're going to have this.
So here's an example of the UI. So on
Perfect.
the left, we've got this Choker of Ancestral Charge, one of my favorite legendaries, currently on season 3. And so it's got the relatively simpler affixes. It's got just max life, damage, and critical strike chance. And we go to the blacksmith, we put it into the menu here, and we can see that there are kind of 6 categories, with 5 of them being highlighted. These categories are the categories of recipes. So each recipe corresponds to one of these categories. And on amulets, you can put anything except the weapons category.
Tempered durability
so that's
remaining
why,
is 5.
Offensive, defensive, utility, mobility, and resource are all highlighted here. And once we go through
It's gonna look good so far.
we
Yes,
use
it
this
is.
twice, because most
This is not
items
RNG
can
from
only
the list.
be,
No, you choose.
Tempered once.
choose
You can
from the
get
list.
just one affix on them. But ancestral items, these really late game World Tier 4 items, can be tempered twice.
Oh,
from
what? You
2
can change
separate
2
categories.
affixes.
So
Crazy.
you can't put, say, 2 defensive ones on there. You're going to diversify. And in this case, we've got charge cooldown reduction added on the right. And we've also got some bonus damage while berserking. So we've got an offensive one here. And then we've got a utility
Well
one
done.
that gives us the cooldown reduction.
I like the copy of the last epoch
Do we have a
mechanic.
a
Totally
live
fine with me.
example of going through this actual flow, so we can kind of show you what this ends up looking like?
Yep. Once again, yep. That was right there.
Look.
Points at the blacksmith.
Yes.
Okay, tempering.
So in here we've got our bow of branching volleys. We can put in here because this is a weapon. We can attach ones from the offensive category, and so here's all the examples. We've got 5 different recipes that we've unlocked here, depending on how we want to build our character. So if we want to do, say, marksman skills to put on there, we can do marksman finesse, and this will give us either bonus marksman damage.
Oh, one of the 4 is random.
Why don't we
Okay.
just temper it and see what it looks like? So we get this flashy animation that comes in.
Bit faster,
and we
please.
get to see, hey, we added 29%
okay,
marksman damage. Right?
One
So-
random out of
Yeah, that's
out
awesome.
of
So
4.
Scripted, by the way.
definitely
And then
not
can
scripted. So
reroll.
yeah,
Actually, wasn't. But
It actually was.
See, you lost
Pretty
1
rational,
temper
yeah.
durability, chat.
You're at the,
Okay, that's
in the grips
fine.
of RNG.
Yeah.
One thing I want to call out also while we're looking at this is that so we are in the
fine.
season 4 update, or this PTR update that we're talking about right now. This is our first PTR update. There's a lot of changes we have going in.
I think
and there's
that's
some
a
things that are gonna be
okay amount of
that
RNG
are
that's
kind of
fun.
In the middle of
You know,
being
fun amount of
polished
RNG.
now. We're kind of getting wrapped up for some things in dev. So there's gonna be some things that players will see on the PTR. They're gonna feel like, oh, this is not quite like what I expect. Or there's they might find bugs and things.
Yep.
That's kind of the nature of the PTR experience.
Yeah.
We want you to report those, like Adam called out a little bit earlier, and get your feedback on the experience.
Yeah,
But-
that's actually a really good
Auto
reminder,
shine,
because I think
I'm
a lot of
happy
people
you're
haven't
not enjoying
experienced
D4.
PTR, especially if
Please,
you're,
instead of
kinda
being
new to
negative,
Diablo and
be
you
somewhere
jump
else.
in.
Good night.
PTRs will have bugs.
Forever.
It is
Yeah.
an early
Yeah.
look
And
at the
polish.
build.
Yeah, still
So
I mean, if
there will
these
be
changes
bugs,
don't have you
polished
excited,
things that
then
won't be incorporated.
you
So,
gave up on the
yes,
game, and
provide
that's okay.
feedback on all those things so that
I mean,
we
no
can
offense,
actually,
but if this doesn't
hear
get you
those
excited
and make
to a degree,
changes for those.
But if we
Because
go
these
back
are
to
good-
Ruben real
good
quick,
changes.
What I wanted to point out was when
Then you
the
just gave up on the game.
when the
That's what
tempering
it is.
process went through. So you got 28% for the that marksman damage, but the item itself got a slightly different number. There's
Yeah.
just a bug that we've identified that we're in the middle of fixing right now.
Right, that's
So-
just a display bug, but this is one
the
of the
delay
things
is horrible.
that
The delay is
we're
horrible,
working
don't get
on,
me wrong.
we're aware of, and going to polish
These are
up
huge
because that's the
QOL
nature of
changes,
game
but we need
development.
more,
eagle
not just
eyed
quality of
among
life
the
changes.
viewers.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the thing.
All right, so a few other things to call out here. Let's actually close this menu and then take a look at when it's in there. We can talk about tempering durability a little bit. So you can see when this is in here, we've got tempered affixes, 1 out of 2. Because this is an ancestral item, you can temper it twice from 2 different
Drop filter,
categories.
please.
So you're
no
gonna
filter.
be able to
It's
put one
quantity,
weapon
quality
and
over
one
quantity.
offensive on there. And then there's this tempering durability remaining.
That's what they
so
said.
this is how many times you can re-roll the tempered affixes. The first ones that you attach should not be consuming tempering durability. I think this one might have one of those bugs where it did consume it, but ultimately this is going to be the number of times you can reroll.
Charles, no worries. We got everything. You can go back in the vault, and we have our season 3 list up.
Tempering rerolls.
Here.
Reroll.
Season 3 list is in the description.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the kind of things that we're actively working on, and we love your feedback on to make sure that we can get this right and really communicate the way the system works. So we've attached an offensive affix onto this. Let's take a look at some of the weapon ones that we can attach.
We don't need more stash tabs because everything is
not great.
So guys, aspects are landing in the Codex of Power. That's gonna degrade your storage by 80%.
Yeah. Right. So when you would attach the weapon category, those are often the ones that are the more I would say more interesting, right? The bonus projectiles, the bonus effect size.
Yeah, that was the weapon category that had a chance to create different, like multiple bone splinters, or twice rather.
Yeah. That's in the weapon category.
What did they show? The game just crashed.
We would attach one of those. Maybe we'd get a chance for rapid fire projectiles to fire an extra time. And then when we do that, maybe, we actually want to play a penetrating shot build, right? Maybe rapid fire is not that great. We could consume one of the tempering durabilities to re-roll that and try to get that bonus rapid fire projectile ones that we want.
At least people now believe it's live.
People still think we weren't doing it live.
Looking at it. But yeah,
I like that they're not stressed out. It shows good mindset right now, Chad.
There's a lot of really cool new affixes in general inside the tempering system. Like I know that, like I've been playing a lot of Season 4, like on our dev build. And I'm playing a Barbarian right now, and I've been playing a lot with Dust Devils, which I know we'll talk maybe a little bit more about
we're
later.
Gonna talk about Dust Devils.
But there's like opportunities to like spawn, like instead of spawning
I'll have
one
video
Dust
later
Devil,
tomorrow.
Dust
I
Devil,
can't do
Dust
later.
Devil size.
I'm very
There's
tired.
there's a
Very
lot of really
tired.
in duration. Like there's a lot of really neat new things to play with to build upon other like playstyles, which I think is really fun.
Yeah. That's really the goal of tempering is customization and really cool new ways of building your character. That's not just plus damage. There is still some bonus damage as you still need to in order to actually do damage, but there's a lot of ways you can customize your skills and make it really your own.
Now, right now, you can temper legendary items.
Correct.
And rare items, but you can't temper unique items.
Yeah, you can't temper uniques, right?
Unique items, what you see is what you get, right? They drop still with the 4 affixes for the most part. Those are going to be unchanged. You won't be able to temper onto them.
With tempering,
With tempering, right.
And then we show the tempering durability, as part or tempering rerolls.
I wonder if they could talk more to make this longer. They're so quick to the point. No, they actually are taking their time this time. Last time they were really quick. This is slow.
At the end of that process, you simply can't temper any longer on that item. There's not a way to reset that item back down. One of the goals.
Don't worry, we got all the infos for you.
Ourselves in terms of like trying
and there's
to
a video tomorrow coming.
Higher quality drops in general. Is making it so it's a little bit easier, and also ensuring it's easier for you to reach those 925 capped items when you start to really deeply engage in features like this. Is you want to make it a little bit easier for you to go find some of those really good baseline templated items for you to start building on top of, as opposed to having it be like, I need to find like 70 helmets in the hopes I find a max roll cooldown reduction on it, right? Like we're in a different place now in terms of how we're thinking about that. In addition to the crafting,
they're much slower. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is snail pace in comparison.
Make it a little bit easier to find some of these things between it being a lot easier to have drops that are relevant for you appear when you're doing various types of content, but also that.
But this one is dragging right now. This one's dragging for sure.
At the same time.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point about finding really strong base items to build off of. And I think that goes great into our next point where we talk about greater affixes.
Yeah. Okay, greater affixes is Masterworking.
So greater affixes are affixes that appear in the late game. They are more powerful versions of the normal affixes. So they come at a 1.5x multiplier on the affixes max roll. So let's say a hypothetical affix might come between like 50 to 100 of a stat. If it rolls greater, then you actually get 150 of that stat instead. Instead of the roll, it always comes in at max. So it comes in at that 150 mark. These are really exciting drops when you get into the late game. They're going to be immediately obvious whenever they drop on the ground. They're going to have a little change to the UI, so you can see it right away.
They built last Epoch in Diablo. They did. They took inspiration, and that's okay.
You really want to pick up and make sure that you take a look at.
There's no hurt feelings here.
You really want to build off of because they're some of the strongest affixes in the game.
They're bringing excitement back into the game.
We've got an example
and you're looking forward to drops.
And one other note, these, as I mentioned, they're late game. They only appear on Ancestral Legendary items and Ancestral Uniques that are dropping in World Tier 4. I think we can zoom in on the top one here, where we can see we've got a little, like some Roman numerals at the end of it, 2. That indicates that this pair of gloves has 2 greater affixes on it. And when you actually go and pick it up, we can take a look at the tooltip of the item itself. And we can see that intelligence here is highlighted, and so is critical strike damage. And these roll up at the max roll. And I think we've got a comparison kind of between, you know, a standard version. So on the left is a a non-greater version of a dagger. You've got,
that's
say,
crazy.
74 dexterity, and maybe it rolled between 70 and 84. But on the right, we've got a greater version of dexterity, and that's going to always give you 126, which is 1.5 times the 84.
But these are like exalted
Same with the
items.
critical strike damage down at the bottom. So if you find the
This is
dagger on
literally
the right,
exalted
that's a really
items,
good one.
Chad?
I mean, not only do you have 2 greater affixes, you also max roll the attack speed in between. That is a great base item to start building through the tempering system on. Thing we've got, the next topic to talk about is Masterworking.
Okay.
Masterworking is a late game crafting system that we're going to use to upgrade the items. So once you kind of find a really good base item, maybe it has some greater affixes on it, and then you've tempered on the affixes that you want. You know, hey,
They're giving every
the exact
item
affixes that are
a
specific
journey
to your
right now,
build
and
that
that's
you've
fine.
attached onto it. Now you're really pushing into the late game.
You automatically
content.
get great
It's
affixes.
time
You just have to
start
be lucky.
Masterworking.
Just have to be lucky.
And Masterworking has 12 ranks where you can upgrade the current affixes on your gear. So this isn't going to change any of the affixes like enchanting or like tempering does. This is just going to take the current ones and then upgrade them through 12 ranks.
This is kind of like the old gear upgrade, right?
Similar, yes. However, both Masterworking and tempering are replacing the old gear upgrade system.
Okay.
The previous system, you just kind of upgraded the item power and the values went up by a bit. These 2 systems replace that, and now you're going to be able to customize them and then masterwork them
It's
instead.
significantly more powerful on the
That's actually really good.
These things are done.
Yeah.
Compared to item upgrade, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Replaces
So
existing.
the 12 ranks of Masterworking, as opposed to the 5 of the old system, most of the ranks are going to increase all of your affixes on the gear by a small amount. But then every 4 ranks, so rank 4, 8, and 12,
Lamborghini Craft has
are
not been
going to
mentioned.
upgrade a single affix by a large amount.
Okay.
So here's an example. The ring on the left is rank 2 Masterworking. You can see that right up there by the item power. It says Masterworking 2 out of 12. Let's focus in on like the maximum life affix there. So on
This
the
has
left, at
5
rank
affixes
2,
on
you see
it,
we've got
Chad, 5.
880 bonus maximum life. And so we take it, we masterwork it up to rank 3, and then that will upgrade that to 920 maximum life. So a little bit of an improvement. But then once we hit rank 4, we actually get a much larger increase in maximum life. It goes from 920 all the way up to 1,120, while the other affixes on the gear stay static because they didn't roll randomly because we're only hitting 1. To Joe's point earlier about we still have some in development. This is in development content. It's not final, as the watermark says. The tempered affixes at the bottom, the Golem active cooldown reduction and the Bone critical strike damage, those also would be being upgraded and are eligible to have this this larger bonus. But in this particular
we can
screenshot
upgrade
example, those numbers
the
didn't
tempered
change, but they will
affixes.
change in the final, and there's a
Those
chance.
also get affected, yeah.
Yeah, they will be included
Nice.
just like all of the rest of them. But yeah, so as you go through it, you're going to get kind of 3
It's going to be more
these,
fun.
these
you at least
effects,
get something
rank
meaningful
4,
to do
8,
now
and
with your
12.
items, right?
And
Instead of just
they can all go
trashing
on the
them
same
and
one.
finding them and trashing
So
them and
if you
finding
get
them. I
really,
like
really
it.
lucky and you really needed a lot of maximum life, you might get just a ton of maximum life every time that increases. Or it could be on one of your tempered affixes. You could get tons of Golem cooldown reduction if that's the kind of build that you're looking for.
Every 4
And
massive
once you
upgrade
fully,
in 12, every
masterwork an
3
item,
massive upgrade, and
if
then
it didn't
4
really
would
pan out
maybe
the way
be
you
better.
wanted to, the random rolls didn't quite go your
Won't
way.
be too good.
You are able to reset it and try it again, but you will kind of lose all the materials that you've invested into
Oh.
it. But you can try that again. It doesn't completely lock you out of it.
Right.
You
so once
can
you've got, like, a really
reset
great
and
pair
try
of
again,
gloves or whatever
what?
that you've tempered at this point. You enchanted to get exactly the affix you wanted on
That's
off it. Maybe
crazy.
you got some greater affixes on it in the first place when you started. Then you take that item into, assuming you got through all that process.
Okay, I think tomorrow's video is going to be on the crafting chat.
And then
first
you can
video,
keep
it's on the
going
crafting and item changes.
You get the opportunity to kind of hopefully crit exactly the affixes you're looking for.
Yeah, and
To
if you
explain that all to
do
you.
get that right,
Okay.
you find something that's got critical strike damage, and then you hit all 3 times on it, super upgraded. That's going to be like one of the best items in the game that probably no one else has one exactly like
Wonder
that.
what it will
because
cost,
You really
which
needed
materials,
to hit
right?
the right one every time. That's going to be a really powerful item that.
They eat a lot of mats, yeah, but mats are dropping everywhere now, so a lot of mats, but they make mats drop
example
everywhere.
here to really highlight all of these systems taken together. So on before, this was that boned one restoration that we talked about right at the beginning when we talked about paring down the affix list to just more simple intelligence damage and vulnerable damage. And on the right, we can see it after it has been tempered. So we've got bone spirit damage. We've got chance for a bone splinter projectiles to cast twice. And then we can see intelligence has been highlighted in blue. That means it's had one of the upgrades from Masterworking.
I like
and
the color
damage
upgrades.
Stat on here has been upgraded twice. That's why it's in yellow.
You know, easy,
when we got
understandable.
Masterworking
Maybe not for
12.
colorblind
And
people.
you can
Sorry,
see how
colorblind people.
we've taken this progression, this item progression, so here once you got it all the way up to Masterworking 12, this is really kind of the pinnacle of what items can be in our new itemization world.
So one thing I want to highlight here is that the total depth of what an item can do and the complexity. You can still make an item do a lot of different things, but on that before side, when you're looking for items that are dropping,
because one
that's
roll you
all
can
that you're
start
gonna
over.
parse
You
through
can
there.
start
It's just
over,
like 3
but I think it's a
affixes,
full
I
reset.
get the ones I want.
So not
you can
just
do
back
that
up
very
one, full
quickly,
reset.
and parse through a lot of items that way. But
All of this
you're gonna
sounds
be
really good.
slowly,
This actually sounds
introducing
good.
that complexity over time to your items as you upgrade and masterwork them. So you're going to be building the items that you really want to be using.
100%.
Absolutely.
In terms of like lucking out on this, I think it's fun to call out like it is basically 5% upgrades to your affixes during the regular masterworking process. And then there's 3 randomly selected 25% upgrades to one of those affixes. So if you're very, very fortunate and you manage to triple up on a particular stat, that's a.
We haven't even heard about the class changes, and we're already an hour in.
For that affix
This is going to be a long one.
If you want to go hard into one affix, you can go really hard into
You
one
go
affix.
really hard on
potentially.
CDR in this world, right?
I'm
Like,
terrified.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can
Super
go
awesome.
hard into CDR,
Yeah.
yes.
Or really hard on bonus projectiles, because those are cool and flashy.
Or bonus projectiles. That's actually true, yeah.
It's going to be really sweet.
Yep.
Bone spears everywhere.
Absolutely. But of course, you might be asking, okay, new items are great. Well, what am I going to do with all of these new items?
Before we even bridge to me, okay, this is a really good bridge. So 2 things I want to call out. One, Masterworking works on unique
They're
items.
really excited.
Correct.
I mean,
So
last time they were not excited.
Really
This
cool
time they're
affixes you
excited.
can compare on unique
Big
items.
difference,
Not the
John.
power of the unique item, but a lot of like the really specific unique affixes. Those all benefit from the masterworking process as well, which are really significant, right? So I think that there's something really, really fun there. Also, you can make sure that like when some of these unique items are dropping, they also could have greater affixes attached.
Okay,
to them.
unique items
So
can
those
have
same
greater
unique
affixes.
affixes that we're talking about, like that is huge. Like now you get an extra like 50% value on top of that.
Yeah.
So like you get
It's actually
50%
crazy.
value on top of
Chad.
the unique item affix, and then on top of that you masterwork it. It can get really, really bonkers. So there's a good chase involved in this. But like
That's-
even allowing for like player trading and everything else, there's
It's actually
still, like, lots
crazy.
of really exciting stuff for players to find.
Greater
and
affixes.
the other thing I've seen a little bit of this in
masterwork.
chat as well as like a lot of people are going like, hey, when are we actually able to experience this?
PTR.
PTR. Well, first PTR, and also at the same time, this is something that does start immediately with season 4 when it begins.
Yes.
This is all the all the itemization changes.
Codex of
will
Power
start
storing is
with
so
the start of
important because
season
it
4,
solves
'cause I
all
know
the
a lot of
storage
people are
issues.
questioning because they're going like, well, we had heard Gauntlet
Storage
in
issues
the past,
solved
and then Gauntlet
right away.
actually started
Because you have
mid-season.
nothing anymore in your
The
storage because in your Codex
itemization
of
changes.
Power.
And all the changes you're hearing today will start at the right at the beginning of season 4, which is on May 14th. PTR being on April 2nd. So.
There's a couple other things I also want to say. It doesn't fit
I got
neatly.
one too.
Oh, do you? Oh, no, you go first. You go first.
These
All
are
right,
all
well,
they're
clarify something, 'cause I
pumped,
know it's gonna be a lot of
Chad. They're really
questions that people
pumped.
have on greater affixes.
Yes.
So greater affixes, the way that you get them is you can
No,
only
endgame
get them
content.
from
Yes,
things that
definitely, Jody.
drop.
We need endgame
so you're
content
actually
too.
looking for that
On top
moment
of
when
all
you
of
kill
this.
the mob, kill the enemy, the loot drops. That's the exciting moment that we're targeting.
Codex is going eternal.
Enchanting is still going to exist. You can still enchant your affixes like normal on those
Enchanting
3 ones
still
that
exists?
drop. You cannot enchant into a greater affix. You can enchant out of a greater affix. So if you choose to, if you've got like a 1 greater affix item, you can enchant that greater affix to something else, but it won't change to another greater, and you can't change anything into a greater. It's
Okay,
all
so
about
enchanting
killing
still
monsters,
exists on top
finding
of
that
everything,
moment that is really exciting
right?
when the item drops, seeing if that works for you. So I just wanted to clarify that on how enchanting works.
That's
Kind of what we're
cool.
going
Like we
for.
still have it. So we have
focusing on the
tempering,
drop, the moment of
masterworking,
excitement,
and
moment of
enchanting.
assignment that we're going for there.
There's
Right.
so much I
One
can
thing
do with an
wanna call out
item.
as well that we didn't talk about already, and that is that there's a lot of other
You can actually
changes that we
spend
haven't
time
actually
in town.
discussed here that you'll see
Right.
when you get to play in the PTR. But one of them I think is really cool is we actually add a bunch of other new baseline rare affixes that can appear on items.
Yeah.
That like players haven't seen before.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
there's as an example of a few of these, we have like Fury per second. You know, can appear on items,
Yeah.
which is very, very exciting and very interesting for my barbarian friends.
Transformative. 'cause
Yeah.
It's very transformative. Like there's a number of other ones like life per hit. You know, is now something that players can find as
Okay.
you experience. Like, are there any that you two thought of that are kind of cool or?
And also ones that are cool and powerful that appear on different slots. So previously, weapons almost always had bonus damage of some sort. We've extended that, so a lot of weapons can now have resource cost reduction. They can have bonus attack speed and other things that increase your output through not just saying damage to a certain way. More interesting ways of increasing your output.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I
very
can customize my items more.
That's the best part.
Right?
I'm terrified of it. It's so cool though, but yeah, it's gonna be
really
pretty
cool.
Having bonus projectiles drop. and
Neil,
have that
they said
potentially be a
the
greater
re-rolling is
optics,
cheaper,
and then
way
you master-
cheaper.
and then you master
So
the
that
bonus projectiles,
matters, I guess.
and it gets
And
silly.
cost is capped on re-rolling.
I know we want to talk about some end game stuff that's coming to the game.
I think you're spending more time in town now.
Maybe we
But
leave that for
valuable
the
time,
end
not shitty
of
time,
the
and that's a good
stream
thing.
itself.
John.
Right before we go into Q&A, is there? I'm going to ask production here. I'm going to pivot them. Is there a way that we can jump to class changes coming to
Me next?
Yeah, you next. I'm
We got
pivoting.
kind of a shrug. So like, I think so.
Yeah, we'll go through the end game stuff here because we
Endgame
do have
stuff.
a lot of additional things that we still need to talk about that even pair with this itemization, these itemization changes. But we'll jump into class changes really quickly. And then
Sure,
we'll
we can
jump
go
back
to me
the
next.
game.
That's fine.
Do it.
Okay.
Take us away, Adam.
All right, so are we ready to go? Yeah, okay. So we've got kind of three big goals for class updates. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to try and breeze through a little quick in the interest of time. The first one is going through a very high volume of meaningful class updates. And what I mean by meaningful is
new
not
skills,
just moving numbers
right?
up and down on things that exist, but kind of either updating systems of how things interact at a systemic level, or adding things that are really, really powerful and are actually going to move the needle and change how you interact with the class or the skill or the legendary or whatever we're changing. Next one is making flat damage effects more viable. So by flat damage, I'm talking about things like dust devils, earthquakes, dancing bolts, all these things. I talked a few campfire chats ago about how I wanted to make these things like a lot more viable and scale
And we're
better,
buffing
and,
Necromancer
we're gonna be making
minions,
good on
Chad.
that in season 4. I'm excited. We'll go into more details, but yeah,
And
that's
we're
one of the
buffing
big things that's
Necromancer
changing this
minions.
season. And last but not least, opening up designs to be more generally useful. So kind of similar to item affixes, how you've got these like multi-conditional things. We're going through classes across the board and going and looking for ways that we can open up things. So you're going to find that things that were a little more restrictive, we're going to try and interact with more different pieces.
Minions.
So
Summoner,
something may have
Necromancer.
only talk to core skills, now it can be any skill, things like that. Where we're trying to make things less conditional so that you can mix and match things a lot more often. So yeah, in addition to those three things, those are our goals.
Hardcore
I'm also going to be
updates,
talking
making
a little
it
bit today
easier.
about PTR balance and hardcore updates. And a little PSA, everything that you see here right now, the tuning is still in flux. We're going through the balancing process right now of these things.
Okay.
So any exact numbers that you see of updates is very much subject to change, not only before PTR, but of course one of our goals for you playing PTR is helping us with the tuning and balance because everything.
I'm totally going to freak out when I see something.
Yeah, expect things to change, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Taking it as face value.
So first, let's talk about uniques. So in Season 4, you're going to be getting double the normal
Sorry, chat.
amount of uniques added to the game. Normally, every class gets 1. Every class is going to be getting 2 this time. So again, more content. We're also adding a new Uber unique here, Tyrael's Might. This is a defensive-oriented unique. It's going to be a chess piece. You can see the stats there. Lots of resistance-oriented things and damage reduction. By the way, in this new world, damage reduction is going to be much harder to come by. So it's actually a lot more special that it exists here. And the special power of this is that when you're at maximum life, so when you have the entire life bar full, you're going to be shooting out projectiles very similar to the artillery shrine. So you can see here kind of in action, you can see that
full health, your
sometimes
skills
it's
under your
attacking
divine
and it's not
barrage.
going off,
It's
and then
actually
as it
really
heals
good.
up, you get
I can
those,
play this
bolts
as a
that's
Bone
hitting
Spear
enemies.
Necro.
It's really, really flashy and cool.
Bone Spear Necro, Chad. with T-Boat's
class
will.
updates. Like
with,
I mentioned before, we're really looking to move the needle on these. We are still going to be having a number of changes, quite a few of just things going up and down for
Fortify and Barium, and then you're just always healthy.
Updating
Boom.
some systems and designs. And I'm going to give you some examples. Now, everything I talk about here today, I'm giving you a small snippet of the things that we're doing, like one or two examples per class. But when you get the patch notes, you're going to see it's like a giant wall. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing everywhere.
Just a slice of the overall pie.
Yeah. So, some examples here. Skill tag updates. So, we're not only doing this on the sorcerers, but on other classes as well. But this is the one example I want to give.
Mastery skills or core skills, that's
sorcerers
crazy.
has always had is that they have kind of core skills and then mastery skills. Mastery skills are things like firewall,
ladies and gentlemen,
things like that. And the mastery skills, we're always kind of second class to the core skills because we had a lot of things that scaled core skill damage, but not mastery skill damage. So we've updated our skill tags and kind of changed things around so they make more sense.
After all this time,
more skill tags added to things across the board.
After all this time,
and the example here is that mastery skills will also just have the core skill tag. They'll be considered both mastery and core skills.
It's still not enough, by the way.
But
it's going to be better.
All that stuff will just work now. Did you have something?
Yeah, we also talked about like mobility skill tags.
Must level
a lot of skills as well, and how that interacts with the tempering system. You have ways of getting mobility skill cooldown reduction that ties into the same concept.
We're actually adding the mobility skill check to all things across all classes.
The problem is we need more changes to minions, like a minion core skill, minion mastery skill.
These things working in tandem together.
We need more.
Yeah. So now some other examples. Frozen Orb on the Sorceress is getting a lot of love.
So I hope it tells us more.
Cast it would go an exact set distance and then blow up, but now it's going to go exactly where you point it at it to with your cursor. So you're not going to hit your life if you run into like a suppressor elite, for example. You can actually make it fire point blank or all the way across the screen. And we'll actually be showing some video of that as well later. We also have a new unique that we're going to have video of that's really awesome. So Frozen Orb sorceresses are going to be really happy this season. And next, Necromancer. I've been talking for a while about Necromancer minions and how we're going to make them better. We're delivering on that in Season 4. The first change is that they're going to inherit 100% of the player stats. So, your crit chance, crit damage, all those things, they're just going to inherit it from you. So they're going to scale way better with you, the player. And this is not only going to apply to Necromancer minions, but all minion types in our game. Things like Druid Wolves are also going to be inheriting this.
Is there other minion types coming? Did he just spoil
We're also looking. We took a look at the Book of the Dead, and basically revamped everything. All the upgrades almost are getting some type of either number or big functionality change, and I'm going to be going through some.
Book of the Dead is just boring,
but it's just going to be a lot more punchy. We're not only looking for effectiveness here, like making things stronger.
Effect size affixes would be nice. They're coming. They already said that.
The things that are awesome and look cool and are visual
effect size affixes are
stand out more.
It's
confirmed.
So
we're trying to do that as much as we can.
As of now.
So next, let's talk about game balance. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, the landscape of everything is changing pretty drastically, right? Itemization is going to be changing a lot of how player power works and how
Army builds back on the menu,
game.
Maybe.
We've got a
if
lot
they
of
change the
class
key
updates
passive and other
changing how things are. You can expect a pretty big shakeup of like just how all the different classes and builds perform. Like it's going to be a brave new world, really here. But
it shot 55,000 viewers for Diablo 4.
We're going to do lists of everything that's perceived as a nerf. I'm not going to be going through every single thing today. You'll be able to see everything in the patch notes on the PTR, and that's mostly in the interest of time, just because there's so much change that's happening. But I am going to give you, a snippet to do good on that promise of kind of how the game is now, and some things that you can expect are going to be lowered in power in the future.
Okay.
So some examples here. Generally, Tybalt's Will, everyone's favorite pants, right? And not only is it really good because the effect is good, but also
this is good, right?
Pants,
because it's too strong.
Really, really good. That damage amount is being reduced. Same with Banished Lord's Talesman. Both of these uniques are insanely powerful.
But they're too strong. I'm with this. This is fine. This is like putting things more into.
Other things can be.
They should be nerfed, as they should.
Next, the Barbarian, everybody's favorite charging class. First thing that we're doing is, many of you may not know this, but when we launched the game, we actually gave them 10% inherent damage reduction.
What?
This was back when melee classes in general and the Barbarian were having trouble in the early game.
What?
Our game balance has changed radically since then, and we don't feel like they really need this anymore. And we don't
Robbery.
want them to have an inherent advantage over all the other classes in the game anymore. So that's
I
going
feel
to be
robbed
removed.
in
And
every
even
way.
like I mentioned before when Charles was talking, damage reduction in general is going to be much more rare and special. You're not just going to find it on any defensive stat.
I'm angry.
When you see
I'm
it,
angry.
it's going to be something that you're going to really
Reasonable
value because
angry.
it's hard to come by. And we also think barbarians are still going to be really good in this regard.
Like,
because their
the interesting
skill
thing is, like,
tree has a lot
damage
of their
reduction is
skills,
less
like,
rare to come
challenging
by,
shout
Chad.
habits, so I think they're going to be fine.
But you can upgrade it
we're just
further.
removing this extra part. Also, we're reducing the effectiveness of Charge, Hammer of the Ancients, and Unbridled Rage. All three of these things have been incredibly powerful. Some things like Unbridled Rage have kind of been stamping out competing things for a long time just because it's so good. Our goal here is not to remove these from the game or make these builds not viable at all. They're going to be reduced, but I still think they're going to be really powerful and effective.
Rob is screaming, crying, throwing up right now. No, he's still going to play it and make it still OP.
And
That's
next
the
we're
plan.
going to go over to the Sorcerer.
Underdog
bug
story.
Fixes here. We have more bug fixes than this, but this is just some that I wanted to call out.
Oh,
The
this
first
is
one, we had
Ferocity's
one
finally
where
fixed.
The evade cooldown reduction affix was triggering off
That's
of
good.
unstable currents casts. And so what this basically meant was you equip those boosts to have evade cooldown reduction, and then you use unstable currents, and you had like infinite uptime on teleport evades, which made you just teleport around forever. This has been fixed, so now it's only going to work with intentional casts now, as it was intended to.
Okay.
And the next one is Isu's Ferocity. This is a key passive.
I bought
on
one shot
Sorcerer
being nerfed.
that
No, I
used
think
to
you can
apply
still
its
one shot
critical
being
strike
things.
damage to all damage types, but it was
Congratulations,
the fire key
Neil,
passive.
for your
Now
sorcerer
it's only gonna
balances.
apply to fire damage, as
I
it
think
was
these are
intended to.
good balances
And
because
again,
they don't
this
break
is
the
just a
game. They
snippet
just
of everything,
make
but
the
there's
game
gonna be a lot
correct.
more stuff. And again, like everything you know is basically going to change because of how many things are being updated in the game. So I wouldn't worry too much about any specific build. All right, so now let's get to the fun part, class updates. So I'm going to be going through all the different classes here and just showing like 1 to 2 examples of kind of the ideas of things that we're changing. Again, lots more than what you're going to see, but kind of giving you an idea of what to expect in the
Okay,
direction that
if
we're
it
going
says
here.
minion core skill, I will.
So first we'll start with the Barbarians. So
Explode?
I like Dust Devils. I've liked them for a long time, and not just things like Dust Devils, but all those types of extra affixes that spawn things. So here's an example of Wind Slasher. This is a legendary that we updated. So it's the double swing legendary that spawns Dust Devils.
Skip to Necro, yep.
Before it was you would cast double swing twice, and you like go in and out and in and out, and every other time you'd make a Dust Devil, right? Pretty cool.
I just don't know if this is good or bad,
We're
Chad.
updating
I
this
don't
now,
play.
so every single time that you cast double swing, it does a Dust Devil.
Right.
And instead of every other time spawning 1, every other time spawns 3. So now instead of going hit, then 1, then hit, then 1, it's 1, then 3, then 1, then 3, which means a lot more Dust Devils.
And I want to call it again, there's tempered affixes that give you chances to spawn additional Dust Devils when you
Yes.
spawn a Dust Devil. So,
And affixes that talk to them directly in itemization with tempering, like their size can go up, their damage can go up. Like we're actually going to make this a thing.
I know
which
I'm
is
talking a lot about Dust Devils. There's cool stuff for all the
It's
classes.
earthquakes,
It's just
Everyone is
basically
excited for
a
Dust
lot of
Devils.
Dust Devil bar during one season. So yeah.
It's the example I tell our team. It's like always I say earthquakes and dust devil. Like these things need to be cool, and all the ones like that though across the other classes. Anyways, that's the bard. So there's not just this, lots of other legendaries are like this. Druid, for example, a thing that has been long complained about to me is that lacerate isn't up to par to other things. So there on the left is what you can see exists today, where the upgrades for lacerate are, the first one is you heal for a little bit for every hit, and then it's doubled when you crit. And then the next upgrade is that its initial strike crits and does a little bit more damage. We're just merging those together. So both of those combined is going to be your first lacerate upgrade. And now we added a second upgrade there where every time that lacerate crits,
what the fuck? Up to 40%?
all of your shape-shifting skills are going to deal more damage for 10 seconds, up to 40%.
Yeah,
so now
sure.
we're adding a very strong, potent, multiplicative damage bonus buff after lacerate. So now, you know,
sounds
lacerate,
good.
you know, it's going to give you invulnerability, life leech,
Upgrade affix to
crit,
8 skeletons.
and then a
It should be
potent
possible,
damage buff
technically,
for a while
Baxton, with
after
the
you
new
cast it.
tempering.
So then if you can get cooldown reduction on it, you can keep that buff rolling.
If
and
I
actually
roll
have,
a
like, build
prime
going on.
super shenanigans,
Next,
maybe?
the sorceress. So here, instead of just text, I'm actually going to show you some videos. The first one is going to be showing that frozen orb change that we talked about here. So basically, you can see here that where the person is targeting with their cursor is where the frozen orb is going to explode.
See,
so
that's good to finally spam a boss with this, right?
You know, it's going to be wherever you go. And for you controller players, this is going to interact just like other skills where it just goes to an enemy, and then if there's nothing nearby, it just goes a set
This is
distance
pretty
before blowing up.
decent for sword. I like that.
Next, we're going to be talking about the unique. So prefacing this unique a little bit before we show the video, the basic idea is conjurations are cool and frozen orb is cool. And what's going to happen with this unique is frozen orb is going to have a chance when it explodes to spawn conjurations, and then anytime that your conjurations attack, they have a chance to throw frozen orbs at enemies.
Oh, okay.
So now we're going to see this in action here. So it's called Fractured Winter Glass, and this video is just the person casting Frozen Orb with this unique. So at first it's like, okay, it's fine. You see a couple conjurations, right? But then as you go on, you can see that the Frozen Orbs are making more of them, and then the conjurations are also throwing out more Frozen Orbs.
That's actually really funny.
This is all just from pressing one button.
This is all just from throwing out Frozen Orbs.
Just been
like that.
right-clicking this whole time.
Yeah, so it's like when when I place a firewall, and my firewall makes a meteor, and then my meteor makes a firewall.
Yes, but conjurations.
But conjurations, yeah.
That sounds like a fun play style.
Exactly.
I'm not,
Cool
yeah.
too. That, okay,
Fair
I got
enough.
an idea.
Stay focused.
But yeah, so
Physical
this is an
damage.
example of the cool uniques that we're adding to the game.
Rogue.
Next, let's move on to the Rogue. So we're also updating some class mechanics
fun,
and other
definitely.
things. Inner Sight has kind of been eclipsed by other things in our game, right? When we first made Inner Sight, you know, it triggered off of trying to this idea
The
that you're
Sork
going to
ping
try
pong
a single
build, it
enemy,
seems like
pick on
really
that
fun,
enemy and
especially
build
for
up this
bullying
gauge, and then
bosses.
you have unlimited energy,
You
and
know?
unlimited energy was supposed to be this really crazy, rare thing that was not, you know, going to happen very often. It turned out that's not really the case through itemization and other things. You can kind of solve resource a lot easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's fun to do that too.
Yeah, and it's fun. We want people to do that. So
Yeah.
we have to update our other systems in accordance to that, which is kind of what we're doing here. So now you don't only have to hit the marked enemy, but you can charge up Inner Sight off of everything. So as you're blowing up waves of enemies, you still want to make sure you're hitting the one that's targeted, but now you'll get a little bit of gauge off of any enemy that you hit. And now in addition to that, the payoff is better. So not only are you going to get that unlimited energy still, but you're also going to get a 25% crit chance boost. So now you're going to be hitting harder when you are in Inner Sight mode. So now there's actually a damage component there too, in addition to the unlimited energy.
Not working.
Next, Necromancer. So like I said, Book of the Dead is getting upgrades. I kind of picked one slice from each part, from each minion type. So here you can see your Skeletal Reapers, the wind-up attacks now, can reduce one of your active cooldowns by a pretty chunky amount. 3 seconds is insane, but there'll be a number that'll make sense there. Maybe it is 3. Next one for the mages, you know, one of their upgrades used to be that they've made frozen enemies
that's
vulnerable,
insane.
and now they just make everything vulnerable. So actually, if you want cold mages to solve vulnerable for you, you pretty much can, just with this upgrade.
Done.
And last but not least, we have your Iron Golem. So Iron Golem, now that when you tell it to go somewhere and do that slam attack where it pounds the ground, it'll also pull in enemies, very similar to Corpse Tendrils. So
insane.
it's not as required, you know, to put that on your bar. You have another way to kind of get that effect. Another thing I didn't put on the slide that I want to call out with golems that'll make players happy. Golem now, while you're CC'd or at any time, when you activate it, it's going to make both your golem and you unstoppable. So now you have another source of unstoppable on the Necromancer for minion builds, which I think will make players really happy.
Makes
Yeah, it's a buddy cop
unstoppable.
situation.
Yeah, right. You and your buddies going and taking
That's
people
pretty
out.
good.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you
for a
don't have
golem
to play
now,
Corpse
for
Tendrils
sure.
anymore,
yeah.
and you can become unstoppable without
So
Blood Mist.
next, like I was saying before, flat damage attack effects, Dust Devils, and Earthquakes are going to be your friends now. So before, these legendaries did not scale very well. And what I mean by that is that the damage that they did was fixed. So if you got like a Dust Devil or Earthquake or whatever, you got that legendary at like level 25, the damage that it did was just a number, and that number didn't really go up with you or scale with you in a meaningful way. Now, under the hood, all of these things are going to be scaling based off your weapon damage.
That's actually
which means that these
interesting.
things will
Blizzard
scale
might be
with you
finally
as a
worth it,
player
Chad.
and be much more viable now. And
Blizzard
I really
affix.
zoom in on this
Because
example I
it's,
give.
it scales.
So this one is Dancing Bolts. I'm actually running this legendary right now, my Lightning Storm Druid. So you can see that, you know, it's the same legendary on each side. This is me just changing out my weapon while I have this legendary equipped. This is in Season 4, so you can see it does an amount of damage on the left, you know, about 5,400 there. Now that number on the right, I didn't get a new legendary, I didn't change it, I didn't do anything except change my weapon, and that increased the damage that these Dancing Bolts are going to do. So when you get these legendaries now, they're going to scale with you and do quite a bit more damage and be punchy as you go into the late game. This is in addition to like tempering and other things, talking to these things, so you can actually itemize into making them more powerful as well.
Yep.
And it's funny because there's some people I think that didn't catch, maybe they didn't catch the first part of the itemization, but they're looking at this second legendary, the new one, and they're going like, well, it's only got 3 stats or something. It's
definitely W. Yes. Many W's. Like a constant string of W's. Before disappointment, now
There's
W's.
a lot of itemization changes to make you know, the items feel more valuable themselves in Season 4. So a
lot of Diablo 4 videos coming.
For people that may have missed the itemization or checking out our blog next week.
You can tap 2 more affixes on them. There you go.
Yeah, they got 5.
That's right.
All right, so last but not least is opening up designs. Like I talked about, one of our goals here, make things more generally useful, less restrictions. We can zoom in here. I have 2 examples. One is Azurath here on the left, a unique sword. So 2 things going on here. First, you can see before it was that your core skills have a chance to freeze enemies and deal a bunch of damage to them. On the right, we've removed the core skill requirement, and now any of your skills can have a chance to freeze enemies. So this means you can use it on, like charge and other similar things like that, where, maybe you want to make a build around something that's not a core skill to proc this, you totally can.
Removing the core skill shit and so on is quite something to be interesting for all
builds. Is on the left, it says Barbarian only. We just removed that restriction. So now any class that can use a sword can use Azure Wrath. Again, we're just trying to look for places where there was restrictions, and when we can, we're just removing them. Next one is Opportunist. This one I'm really excited about on the Rogue. I think I'm going to play a Rogue this season. So on the left is the old version where it says when you break stealth with an attack, you can drop stun grenades, right? And then those grenades deal damage and stun enemies. On the right, we've removed a lot of these restrictions and made it more useful. So now it's when you enter or break stealth, and you don't need to break stealth when you attack. So anytime that you cast stealth or go into stealth, you're going to get 2 sets of these, and it's just going to be when you go in and out.
Azure Wrath, yes.
You also notice that this is a tuning thing, but the stun duration on stun grenades has been buffed. Takes a second now. And then we also did a thing that I'm really excited about here where
I really dislike the basic core and ultimate affixes. I think we got to play that to see how good it is and experience it.
All of them are going to have this.
For sure.
So if you want to make a stun grenade build,
by the way, in case you missed something,
4 or 5 of these legendaries
this document
that kind of
has
combo
everything
together,
updated in there.
everyone is going to incrementally increase your grenade's damage as well.
Screenshots.
To a point where they'll be doing a lot more meaningful damage in your build. All right, last but not least, we've got hardcore updates. So for you hardcore players, Elixir of Death Evasion is being removed from the game. It's dying, and it's not coming back, just like you will in hardcore. We've also redesigned the Flame Shield enchantment. So before, it used to be a cheat death mechanic, where when you took fatal damage, it would proc and save you. Now it's going to automatically activate when you lose a certain amount of life, and then it has an internal cooldown on that.
Well played.
So we've heard from the community kind of loud and clear. They really want hardcore.
I uploaded. It's already uploaded, Costas. You can see it in the description of the video.
Be careful. The Sanctuary is a very
chat, I don't want you to
scary
freak
place,
out, but we have
won't
3 times the viewership that we have on Twitch right now.
Anymore. And finally, PTR feedback. So like we mentioned before, we're going to be looking at the PTR feedback very carefully. Please let us know what you think. The class team is particularly excited about.
Not sure if it's good. Main step plus all step will be required now. Yeah, but you can roll them extremely high.
Tuning your feedback and typing it to us. We're really looking at things like tuning and balance. We know that things are going to be pretty wacky in this brave new world.
Yeah, we're excited for endgame news now.
We're also looking for what changes really made the game more fun to you. You're going to see a lot of them, a lot more than what I presented today. We really want to know what changes we did, maybe didn't hit the mark, and why. Maybe we didn't go far enough. Or this thing could have been way better with just a small tweak.
Yeah, I think Necromancer summons should have 150% bonus damage.
Right? We're forever going to be updating this game, and we really want to know, a lot of these changes are coming from your feedback, like, flat damage scaling, unstoppable coming on the golem for necromancers.
Yeah, you can roll all stats. All stats will be higher than ever before, and then you can mod them to be higher ever than before. Masterwork or Temper.
That you would like
actually Masterwork.
We'll be looking for that feedback.
You can get probably plus 90 all stats.
Classes. Thanks everybody again.
Yes,
we're excited.
There is like ton of information for classes, and it's funny because everyone's treating this PTR feedback slide as if we're done.
No. There's more. There's a lot more.
I'm sorry.
He hasn't even gotten started yet.
As the chat calls it, Joe Pipe4 Rap God has not spoken yet.
I think they're going to be able to implement this in one update. Yes, season 4. Season 4 got delayed to the 14th of May. Everything is coming in season 4.
Specific items.
Sure, thanks.
With PTR to test.
A couple things I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about some new content stuff in just a minute, but there are some other things that are also changing at the same time. You'll see on the PTR that we've made adjustments to world tiers, and that we've changed the XP modifier that you get for opting into certain world tiers. So, so the reason why we're doing this, we want to get players to endgame a little bit faster. So we've made an adjustment where World Tier 2 now goes, instead of giving you 20% bonus XP, it gives you 50% bonus XP. World Tier 3 now gives you 150% bonus XP as opposed to the 100% you got before. And then World Tier 4 gives you 250% bonus XP.
I don't think that was needed, but I won't complain.
You got before. So again, we want to get players into the space where they're getting a chance to play with these new items. They're getting a chance to see some of the new content we're going to be talking about in just a minute.
But it makes sense to make the leveling faster if you finally have something to do in the end game.
Have a little less
AKA play around with your items, upgrade your items, try to find the perfect item, right? You know, actually do something in the end game.
So this is our
I think
stated
that's
intent.
fine.
We want more players to be able to reach level 100. We want them to get more of these level 100.
Yeah, might make a couple of seasonal tunes.
Items.
I think this
we want
is
them to start seeing more
this is
greater
fine.
affixes. We want them to engage in tempering and masterworking. We want them to see everything else the game has
A
to
Fate
offer.
will play
We wanna
Dragon's
make sure
Dogma
we're
2
removing
on
some
Friday.
restrictions and making that possible, and we're continuing to think about that as we move forward. This is just all of the things we're talking about today are just one more step on the journey of Diablo 4. We're going to continue, as Adam already called out, to continue to make the game better based on feedback and just continue to add more cool stuff that,
So
that
do
we
feedback
think is
chat,
great for the game,
please.
and also that we're hearing from our player base, our community, would be really, really great for the game experience. So with that quick little thing out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first major update we have planned that you get a chance to see on PTR. And that is, we made a significant update to Helltide.
Where summoning dropped during the
Now,
tide used to
I
summon.
think that everyone will remember that in Season 3, we made an
that's
adjustment
exactly
to
what I
Helltide's
wanted.
timing, where now they're basically up for 55 minutes out of every hour. There's a 5-minute gap between each Helltide experience.
Helltide is now Blood Harvest.
And we think that that's great. Players
Chad,
will get better access to Forgotten
this is
Souls
literally
and,
the feedback
and,
I
and all
had.
the gameplay there. But we also, like, looking back on Season 2.
Well
and,
done.
you
I mean,
know,
honestly,
the
well
Blood
done.
Harvest
Might make
regions
Helltide's
where,
fun.
you know, the armies of Lord Zir were marching across
Brett Meter
sanctuaries.
builds
We
up
all
killing monsters, spawns
recall from
Hellborn.
quarter 4 of last year.
Lots of
and,
ambushes,
you know, capturing people and draining them of
rare
blood.
summoning materials.
You know, that was
everything.
we thought that was a really fun,
yeah.
frenetic, like social experience in the overworld. Like, it's just a blast, kind of go through, kill vampires.
How about we
save
resummon an
people,
Uber boss without resetting the dungeon
and
would be
summon
nice.
Bloodseekers as well along the way, and getting good rewards as you go. It was a fun experience. In Season 3, we had a different take on that idea with the form of Arcane Tremors, where players can go and engage in a number of different small activities and traps, and also manage to summon Heralds of Malthus in a group and go ahead and get more like tuning stones and more and governing stones. And continue to
Helltide is just
get
math
more
army now.
rewards, from that
Now it's
experience.
fun.
And again, we thought that was pretty fun, right? So we wanted to take some of these ideas back to Helltide, and I'll be actually, I think it might be even easier if we could just throw to Ruben potentially, who I think might actually be able to be in Helltide right now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks like that's the case. So we want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide.
The threat meter?
Hello. Yes, you're going to get destroyed. We want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide and make sure that our overworld, exciting, demonic invasion experience that players get to go through here is just more fun to engage with.
Was that
There's a
just a
shrine.
giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies at?
That
Ruben?
was a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies up. So a bunch of things have changed. So one of the things that, let me dive in. So one of the things that we did is we add this new idea of a threat system. Now you'll see the eagle-eyed among you can look to the left of the minimap. Thank you, Ruben. Can look to the left of the minimap, and you'll see a horizontal bar. It's segmented in 3 pieces next to that kind of like half-completed pentagram there. As the players are killing demons in Helltide areas, they are slowly growing their threat over the course of the experience.
And then they're going to get invaded
And as
by
they do that, they're going to find like more like ambushes. They're going to find more creatures coming and trying to kill them as they kind of like roll through the space. And they're gaining threat by doing anything. If they're opening tortured gifts, if they are killing like regular monsters and elites, you know, they're always earning more threat.
There's
for the
now
things
2
they
elites
do.
spawned.
The armies of hell are paying more attention. So as the player is going to go through this process, they are going to start feeling like more pressure as they go through the experience. Now, once the player is gotten towards the end of this, like they actually have, you know, when the armies of hell have been fully alerted, you know, you'll hear a tone, which I think that I think we might actually hear soon potentially. I guess we'll have to see.
Did he just open that box? I mean, he's missing out on that elite on the bottom.
The armies of hell are basically coming for your blood, right? They're coming for you at this time. And in that case, you're going to see that there's going to be a new
there was the elite at the
creature
bottom,
type swing
sir.
up here, which we'll be able to get to in just a second. Some of the other big changes that are happening in Helltide alongside this, while we kind of wait for some of this stuff to happen, is we have reduced the level requirement or the world tier requirement for Helltide.
I mean,
So
he forgot that down there was the
lower
thing.
world tiers
I'm
now.
not sure why no one is telling him.
A great way for you to level up. Okay, it looks like the forces of hell have been alerted. So now there's going to be like it's going to be almost a little more of a holdout. More invasions and ambushes are going to start to occur at this time, you know, and it's going to have a kind of cap-off event towards the end. We'll talk about as it arrives. But you can see right now that threat is draining while this event is occurring. So you've kind of like reached that maximum threshold. You know, the minions of hell are coming for you. You're going to be kind of fighting pretty hard for this stuff. But it's a great way to get like access to a lot of elites You know, once this bar is drained once again, you can start building it up by again going out.
That's nice.
and
I
working
mean,
inside
like
the Helltide
essentially it's going to have you going
experience.
through
You'll get
and
more
then
opportunities
just
for
do it and then go
senders,
through and then do it and then go
more
through and do it.
ambushes
There's a
again
seasonal material
as time
dropping.
goes on. Looks like we're getting towards the end of this now.
He needs to move away from the seasonal material.
Oh yeah.
There's Hellborn Queen. No, there's the
Hellborn
player.
Yeah. So yes, and now one of the Hellborn has managed to appear. Hellborn are they're very much a similar creature to some of the Bloodseekers that we've seen in the past. These are adventurers.
He's really
who
not
fall
doing
into
much damage.
The depravities of hell. They're now serving their infernal masters. They have great drops, like they'll drop like legendary equipment.
I wonder how it will work with
they will
Bloodlands,
also
Azure, and
drop
Frostgone as
summoning
between Corpse
materials for
Explosion and
Lord
Grapple
Zir,
plus Sword
moving
Minions.
forward. So there's more ways for you to get some of
I
those
mean,
bats
things are
as you go
possible.
through the experience. And that's actually one of the other things that we did as part of our general updates is we kind of wanted to go through and do a pass to make it easier to find more of those boss summoning materials, like from doing.
Okay, Helltides is now
different
Blood
kinds of
Harvest.
content.
That's great.
So while obviously you can go to Helltides and open Tortured Gifts to get Living Steel pretty quickly,
Fix the Razor Blade
we
never
want to make
drops.
sure that
I
there's
just
like if
recently
you
got
find
one.
like a treasure goblin, there's a chance that
rarely,
a treasure
though.
goblin could drop a random boss summoning material. You know, when you go and you open bounty caches or whisper caches at the end of a bunch of whispers runs, like in that situation, you'll also get a chance to get a random boss summoning material. You know, and we find more opportunities through different parts of the experience. In,
Okay,
like,
so
local
random boss
events,
summoning
like when you're
materials
going and just
everywhere.
Finding events and you manage to complete the mastery objective of an event now, there's a chance for you to get a boss summoning material there. You know, even elites have a very, very low chance to drop some of these materials. And again, all to make it just a little bit easier to kind of like gain access to these bosses as you're leveling up and playing, even if you're not saying specifically in just Nightmare Dungeons to get Distilled Fear or something else.
That's
right?
nice.
So yeah, I think those are going to be some pretty fun updates for the players. That's obviously
pretty
not
exciting.
everything.
Yeah.
So so another thing that we're doing as part of this is that we are adding a new boss. To the game. We're adding Andariel. So you can now fight Andariel. She is summonable.
Oh, that's
by
cool. Another
defeating,
Uber boss.
Beast in Ice and Lord Zir, and she's got the same drop table as Duriel. So we want to make sure that players have a couple different ways to kind of
that's cool. Kill Beast of Ice
uniques that Duriel drops, but
and
also
Lord Zir.
for that shot at getting those uber uniques without always requiring players to go back to those same.
It's actually
places.
nice because
So
usually
between
like the
opening
Beast
up
of Ice is
options
useless.
Of how you gain access to materials you can use to
Right.
go farm uber uniques a little bit earlier. To like now saying, hey, go do Nightmare Dungeons, go do some of this overworld content and Helltide content to gain access to Beast and Ice.
I think
and
that's
Lord Zir,
okay.
So you can go farm Andariel there. We think that's
More
gonna be, like, a
Duriel
really,
runs.
really fun
Yeah,
change.
absolutely. I mean,
And,
that will never change. But
Andariel's
due
a
to
really
the
cool
new
fight. I think
item
we actually
Uber
have, like, a
unique
quick
changes, you
little
should get
shot
Uber
of
uniques easier.
Summoning for Andariel, as we all know her and love her. There she is.
Wow.
She's back. She's tough. You know, it's gonna be.
I
it's
want to say
gonna
the
be
fight's
fun.
been updated too. It's
Yeah, the
not
fight.
exactly the same as what
Yeah.
you did before.
Yeah,
so.
the designer's been very excited about this fight and very excited about Andariel for a while, bringing her back into the equation. So yeah, she's gonna be a lot of fun to see.
Bosses ever doing 5,000 Duriels, it definitely felt like a fool. Yeah. I feel you.
Okay,
there.
enough Andariel. Enough Andariel.
All right, yeah.
People will see that.
Yeah.
We're on a timer, people. Okay, I got things to talk about still. Okay, but that's not even all the things that we're changing with regards to bosses. There's more stuff that we're doing as well. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about in just a minute is a new feature called the Pit. And inside the Pit, you're going to be earning Stygian stones you'll be able to use to summon higher level versions of all of these bosses as you go deeper into the experience. So we think this is extremely exciting. It provides another way for
Like a
players
boss
to
gauntlet?
express their build strength, and going and fighting these bosses are going to provide much greater rewards. In fact, when you kill one of these new very, very powerful tormented versions of these bosses out there, they are going to give you one resplendent spark the first time you kill any of them. So of like all the ones that you can summon, the first time you kill one of them, you're going to get a resplendent spark for you to use in the future. Now, and that is not all that we're doing. Obviously, I mentioned the Pit. So if we could just go ahead and well, I guess we can talk about it. I can speak to it actually. Yeah. So we've been getting a lot of feedback from like our
That's a
experience
new
with,
boss ladder.
with the Abattoir of Zir. You know, so towards the end of season 2, we had this like really difficult like dungeon dive. We were going against again forces of Lord Zir inside this experience.
Minions
Fighting
builds are going to be
Bloodseekers
great for this.
and kind of racing the
Honestly,
clock.
minion builds are going to be insane.
It was a pretty fun experience. We got a lot of really good information and feedback about how that really
Before
played
coming
out.
back,
We made
we'll
a number of adjustments in the form of this new content type that we're calling the Artificer's Pit. And what it effectively is a way for players to go and They're like once players have managed to complete a tier 45 nightmare dungeon, which is filled with like level 100 monsters, they're going to gain access to a quest that's going to like send them around the world looking for rune shards. And rune shards are just this new material that players will collect to open up Artificer's Rifts. And they drop from elite creatures. They drop all over the place. Like it's pretty easy to find, the materials you'll need to start this process. And when you have a number of them, you can bring them back to this obelisk in Karagar and kind of use that to like form your first pit run effectively. And there's hundreds of levels of this, and the monsters that you will begin fighting immediately are all like right at level 100. Do we have a yeah? Let's see what we got. So we have Ruben like kind of near
live,
there.
Okay, portal activator, artificial obelisk.
With that awesome debug text.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, with the awesome debug text. Everybody, it's PTR. Look forward. And we're talking about dev stuff right now. So this is what it looks like.
Chat, we're getting rifts. This is crazy.
Okay, so we see here that Ruben is coming here. He's already done the rift before. He's going to go ahead and just open up a tier 1 Artificer's Rift, and we'll see how this goes. So he's going to spend 1 rune shard to do this. That's going to open up. So
that's like Abattoir of Zir without being Abattoir of Zir.
And we're going to go. There's a little bit of a stacking issue there. Yeah, we're going to have that fixed too. Okay,
well, for your Rift, it seems like it.
And you're going to dive into your first pit run. Now, each pit experience it's a randomized layout filled with random monsters. There's no nightmare affixes like what we have in, or like afflictions like we have in Nightmare Dungeons. Instead, the players really like just pushing themselves up as against this timer as fast as they can, trying to complete it.
Yeah,
so as you're going through this, you'll see it's very similar to a lot of the things that we did in the Abattoir of Zir. We want to make sure that this is a quick, punchy experience as you're playing and you're killing monsters. You're not going to be getting any loot from the drops. Like that stuff's not here to slow you down. It's just about like pushing as hard as you can.
But this time in difficulty.
A couple of the major differences between what we've done in the Artificer's Pit relative to what we did in the Abattoir of Zir is first, in the Abattoir of Zir, when a player died while going through the experience, they were immediately ejected from the Abattoir of Zir. Like their run was over in the case of death. Here, we want to allow for a little bit more.
But it's nice that you can max out builds for different things, like maximum pit build, maximum monster ladder build.
You die, what actually ends up happening is you add 30 seconds to your timer. So you're less and less likely to beat the timer. And that's important. At the end of the timer, you're not ejected from the pit. If you don't actually manage to keep time.
That just is good.
You just don't get the mastery objective completion. And the mastery is tied to masterworking materials that you'll be using to go through the masterworking process.
Oh, masterwork materials.
The pit, as Charles referenced earlier, is the place you need to go in order to obtain the bulk majority of those masterworking materials.
See, that makes sense.
So
that's actually really good.
To the end of the experience, and you will get rewards for having defeated the boss by the end of a pit run. If you don't manage to finish it with the timer in mind, you won't get access to those materials. So why is this? So one of the things we recognize that we think is very unique to Diablo and to SARPGs in general is that a lot of times players are making.
I like how they crown just randomly new terms for how they call Diablo.
They're deciding, okay, I can kill monsters of this level fairly easily and without much risk.
Yeah,
how much further beyond this level can I push in order to maximize the rewards I'm getting from the runs that I'm doing, and while also like maintaining good cadence and like managing my risk. And that's kind of like that fun sweet spot that we think works really, really well. AOZ was meant to like tap into a little bit of this, but it was also.
I will have to do so many videos tomorrow. Might not even stream actually.
From the get-go. Here,
they got like one YouTube video after the other.
I think we understand that, like tier 45.
To break this all down for you, right?
The most challenging.
What do you want first?
The game it goes up much higher than that.
Crafting, right?
And the pit does as well. As the pit
crafting,
can go like
then
well
endgame
past
and class changes.
So you can be fighting level 200 monsters, level 250 monsters as you go deeper and deeper into the experience. So okay, it looks like Ruben's making pretty good time going through this. I think we saw earlier that Ruben actually like jumped into a portal to move to a different area.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you can't finish an entire pit
I'm gonna
run
keep you busy for us. Oh, absolutely. A total overview. Total overview. You have the stream here. I'm not gonna do a total overview. That's a waste of your time. I'd rather break down the systems in detail with timestamps and everything. Total overview is too much and a waste of your time. For that, you can skim through the VOD, I think. But I don't want to waste your time with like a too long video where it just wrap everything up.
Pretty efficiently and quickly, but where you're pushing hard so you can get better rewards.
Right. Okay. So Ruben did a great job, Ruben. So you managed to do it. Okay. Let's not get too excited. All right. So now he's gonna go and he's gonna fight the boss in just a moment. Now the second thing that's different about the pit that we you just start to see it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's different from what we've done in AOZ in the past. is that occasionally during a pit run, you're going to be confronted by another major boss or villain that you've seen. Like, you'll see their echo occasionally appear just for a moment to perform a big attack, big sweeping attack, or that you're going to have to like avoid or deal with while you're dealing with the boss you're already fighting.
Okay.
And this is happening throughout the duration of the pit as well.
The
You know, and as
artificial
you go
pit
deeper,
looks
you'll see this
like
occasionally a little more frequently at the same time.
Elphis.
So these are just another complication, like another thing that you're going to have to be thinking about while you're playing and trying to like remember the sorts of patterns. Eventually, you'll see a couple of these appearing as well. You know, so like you'll be dealing with that like that kind of pattern following as you play deeper and deeper into the pit.
Yeah,
I'll
so,
say
so it's kind of like Elias, for instance, like a shade of Elias can
Yeah,
appear
so you can come and do an
and
attack.
just
Yeah.
do an attack in the middle
A
of
shade
the
of
run.
Lilith can appear as well.
A shade,
Yeah.
shade of Lilith can also appear,
Yeah,
which is
so
pretty cool.
these are definitely tough, like tough things as you go deeper and deeper, and eventually you might see a couple of them as well in combination. So okay, so here Ruben killed the boss, got a number of different drops. There's a bug in this.
Then we get
in this version
Opticide.
we're looking at right now, where the items they're dropping are not actually ancestral, but that's not the
Rift
case
start
when the
level
players are
100.
playing on the PTR.
100. So you can start. You can probably use them for leveling.
And then after
But
that,
I don't think
when
that's
you
worth
open
it.
the chest, you're going to see that there's a bunch of objects.
So like you need to be level 100.
Material.
I mean, you need to be able to kill level 100 opponents.
You know, from the first round. So as you go deeper in the pit, there's
As soon as you
basically
clear a tier
3
45
tiers
dungeon, you can do
of
it.
Masterworking materials that you're going to be able to earn through. So there's the Obdicite, there's the Ingolith, and then there is the Neath Iron. So these are available as you go deeper and deeper into the pit experience. I think Obdicite right now is like tiers 1 to 20. You know, you'll be getting like amounts of Obdicite. As you go from like 21 to 40, you get amounts of Ingolith, and as you go to Neath Iron and beyond, as you go into like like 40 and beyond, you start seeing more and more Neath Iron.
Makes sense.
And these things can also be like condensed down to lower level materials if you need them.
The whole
for
Malphite
resetting
stream is a direct
masterwork
copy from
items
the
starting
LE, by the
at
way, on a
lower
class
level.
showcase.
So
It
you
showed
don't
the
have to go
exact
back
same
to the low
tile
level.
set.
No,
It is what it is.
You can stay at a higher level.
Trim it, yeah.
But to be clear, if you want to get to that rank 12 masterworking, the best possible items, you do need to be pushing deeper levels of the pit. You
Yeah,
can't
for
just
sure.
continually farm level 1. You want to push to that efficiency bet that you said. Push yourself to your limit to get the most materials per hour,
Yeah.
and just really fight that hard content to get the best items.
See, this is going to be
So, yeah,
interesting
if
for
you wanna go
creators
through
making
that
builds that
process
are
and,
able
like,
to
really get those
kill
the best
higher level
items
rifts
available
for you.
your build. You're going to want to go through the masterworking
Right.
process, maybe even probably more than once, almost certainly more than once, right, to get the absolute very, very best items. You know, so we think the pit's gonna be it's a really fun experience. It is it's very extendable, so it goes pretty deep for players. And again, as you're going, you're getting these Stygian stones as you play. You know, like as you get deeper into the experience, you're gonna get those. You're gonna get the ability to go fight those level 200
versions of
tormented
each-
versions
level
of these
200
bosses.
versions.
So like a level 200 tormented version of Barshan, you know, and so on and so forth. All of these bosses have a higher chance to drop uber unique item as well.
Oh.
So now there's even more reason to want to go get some of these creatures on farm, and they have better drops. They more prolific in terms of the drops. They drop
That's crazy.
more items as you're going through.
I mean, we
this.
finally have a
So
boss
there's,
where it's actually
these
going to be
are
hard to
huge,
beat.
huge challenges for
Right?
players to go and try to chase.
like
Again,
that.
just in season 4. You know, so that's like the current look at some of the things we're working on right now.
Yep.
That we're currently very excited about
Yeah. So
on the content side. Right?
yeah,
I mean, season 4 is a win.
We're an hour and a half in of all the
Wholesale.
content that we just walked through with season 4. And as you know, Adam had mentioned earlier, you know, we haven't even gone through all the class updates. You guys will actually see that.
Let's start from level
There's
1.
a
What from
lot
level 1?
more. You guys will actually see that next week.
For
Normally, we
the
do
rifts,
a
you have to be the
blog
tier 45
attachment
dungeon.
kind of available like a day or two after a campfire chat. I am asking the community if it's okay if we give it to you guys next week, because the only reason why is that they're huge, and we actually need to make sure that we get all the information in there. You guys
And
will
when
have
season
it
4 comes out,
well
season 4
before
comes
the
out on May
PTR
14th.
actually
They
starts,
delayed it so
and
we can
will
play No
actually
Rest for the
have,
Wicked.
A blog kind of going through
Is
all
the
the
level 200
details
boss even
of this
possible when you
actual
can only reach
campfire
level
chat,
100? Yes.
as well as the
I mean, you're
giant
beating level
list of patch
155
notes for
opponents
the
in a tier
PTR,
100 dungeon.
which again will begin on April 2nd, run for a week on PC BattleNet, and we'll have instructions of how to actually get into the PTR, download the client, and everything from that end as well. So I know we always end our campfire chats with a Q&A session.
Yep.
So we do want to make sure that we do a Q&A session right now. So if you guys have questions, please.
I'm running
use
quickly to the
Twitch
toilet.
chat
If you have
imagine
questions.
any questions.
No, yeah, we
I can't
covered
imagine
everything,
this.
right?
Covered it all.
I thought it was a perfect
All
explanation.
We did ask earlier this week on the forums if if anyone had any specific questions, and so we can actually tee up a question while people are populating questions in in chat. So we'll start off with one that we have here from the forums. This is from Iggy. What will happen to current items after this rework? Because obviously we're now changing a lot of things from our past items going into Season 4.
Yeah, so all of the items that you currently have on your characters or on the Eternal Realm will be flagged as what are called legacy items. And this means that they are not able to interact with the new systems of tempering or masterworking. They'll continue to function as they are, so that they're not going to break, they're not going to be re-rolled or changed in any way. They're just kind of say, hey, this was an item that in the old system, but if you want to engage with the new systems and find those greater affixes and temper all the cool new affixes onto it and do masterworking, of course, you're going to need to go out and find new items.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a question from Toast and Pen, Eternal Realm, what's new? Everything we just talked about. Everything we just talked about, Toast and Pen, is going to be available in the Eternal Realm. So, and this will start with Season 4. So if you are a person that just only plays on Eternal Realm and you have a character already there, of course you can just immediately start engaging in everything that we just kind of talked about right here. J Corsair 19, does the masterworking just increase the total range of the roll, or does it get you closer to a max roll?
So it increases the current value. So if you already had a max roll, it keeps on increasing. So as an example, you had an affix that could have rolled between 50 and 100, and you had a value of 90. Every time you increase it, it's going to increase that 90 by, or let's say you had it at 100, just to make the math easier, because quick math. If it was already at 100, the first masterworking upgrade will take it to 105. Even though the base roll range was just up to 100, you can continue progressing past that. If you had it, down at 50, it would go from 50 up to 55, and so on.
Arrow 1357 just asked, what about season? Is there season stuff as well? We actually aren't talking yet about the season items. So yes, this is all part of the season and part of the Eternal Realm. But we do have, there are some things that we haven't talked about regarding Season 4 that we will be talking about here in the future.
The bulk effort for the team has really been spent on trying to ensure that this update is really meaty and all-inclusive. Like when I've talked before about, the Season 2 updates.
Heads up, chat. The document is filled with screenshots and everything.
Kind of like make that.
I want to go through this, and tomorrow, updated videos and everything.
You can see the amount of things
actually not even stream
kind of all
because I'm making just 66 videos.
And it's important they kind of come out together. It's difficult to
do one thing. You can prepare for that coming content at the moment. Gold, okay, but maybe some other things. What's your opinion?
And get over the finish line.
For Eternal Realm,
it's a huge lift.
Since all the materials are new backed in, you can't really prepare.
Thorag the Warrior says,
new.
Can multiple affixes increase per masterwork?
You could farm some boss materials
per masterwork.
Right. So when you're masterworking,
for example,
most
Andariel,
of the ranks will increase
Beast
all
of
of
Ice
the
and Lord
affixes
Zero.
on the gear
So Lord Zero
by
and
a small
Andariel,
amount.
or
but when you hit those thresholds,
to
the rank 4, rank 8, and rank 12, a single random affix will get a much larger boost.
Yeah.
And so, because there's that happens 3 times on your journey from rank 1 to 12. In theory, all 3 of those could land on the same affix if you get lucky.
So I did understand everything here, guys. I don't need the Q&A. I understood everything. Thank you very much for coming. I am dead tired and I need to sleep. We did Alone in the Dark today. If you actually do want to watch that, it was brilliant. I'll be back tomorrow with first crafting system, then endgame, then class changes, wholesale throughout the board. I'll be making a lot of videos on this with a new boss ladder and all these kind of things. So you have very specialized videos that explain everything to you. Okay? Timestamps in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to don't miss out on it. And I'll see you all tomorrow again. Good night. I'm tired. I'm dying.